Just waiting for Jim and Joe to give me some good news. It's 8 o'clock. Where are you guys? Waiting for my good news. Get your fat ass online already.
To be honest with you, I'm gonna come out and say it. Cam Newton is an average guy. He's an average quarterback. Never been a
Yeah. Well, just let it all out, Joe. Just be honest.
This is what I'm doing.
All right? Just vent.
I do.
Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk from two men in the know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
Well, this is what the Patriot Handbook says, Joe. This is what you got to do. See, look at this. It's right there, rule number 143.
Yep. Jimmy just felt the need to bring the Patriots into a Raiders
I
conversation.
just
Can you
have
believe
to. I
that?
think I always have to do it. I'm sorry.
All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome once again to Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee. Alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, know-it-alls? Welcome back to another edition of Football on the Know Show. I am Joe. He is Jim. Together we are one as Football on the Know. And real quick, I just wanted to say, like, we're getting to talk to some more football finally. I know it's been a week. I know some people, get a little itchy every week. So
I thought it was just
like we
hives.
do. Yeah, it's crazy. But you know what? You know what just happened recently is now they're starting the mandatory mini camps right now. So the Patriots ended up going and a few other teams as well. So they have to be there. But we started to notice there is a couple of guys that are not showing up that are big names, and you'll find more of that in the drop later on.
Yeah, absolutely. All that's starting to kick in, and you're hearing talks about how certain rookie quarterbacks are playing now, and some of the markets that have a quarterback battle. And, so there's a lot to talk about. Excuse me, I'm just going to say it right off the bat because I got something going on with my chest. And in our intro when we first started, I went, woo, because it's going to happen. My voice is going to crack a few times, so hopefully it's not too bad for everybody. And just bear with me here. But, there you go. See, I
like it,
Joe. Mickey Mouse. There you go. And,
there you go.
So, Joe posted something on our group, which I hope all of you guys can check out and see.
Definitely,
and,
it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. We appreciate all the members too that we have, and let's add some more. But he posted something about the Aaron Rodgers. The big thing that hit the memes and everything was Aaron Rodgers, Bakhtiari down 2 to 3 beers.
Yeah.
Called him out over there, and then all of a sudden he was Aaron Rodgers said, "Oh yeah, I'll try it," and then does it, holds the finger up, slow nurses it,
Still
and then
holding
even
it up.
quits on the one, so
Easy.
he's getting flack from that.
Easy.
So then in an interview, he's asked about that. And unfortunately, I'm done. I'm dumb. I didn't pull up the quote here, but this quote was great. Was like basically, he's like, how do you feel about how not doing that and yada,
Yeah, he
yada.
was asked
and
that
he was just
question,
like, well, that's great. So finally, there are some players out there that are
better
than me at one thing at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
right.
calling to basically say you're not a better quarterback, so you might as well be a
But-
better beard chugger.
Right,
so.
you're a better beer chugger.
So I'm like, that's awesome, and it's a way to throw it out there. And some people saw it as even him being oversensitive, because again, that's the thing that goes along with him. A lot of times when people say to him, you meet him, they're like, "Oh, I thought you'd be taller." He's sensitive about his height,
Yeah.
and a lot of other things when he's asked about other questions. And it's funny because he took that stance, which I think is kind of funny, and what a way to burn somebody, like, oh, boom, savage,
yeah.
But then he even continues on to there and says, well, I'd like to see him drink, bourbon or whiskey. I think that he drinks scotch. That's why he's a scotch drinker.
Yeah.
So he's like, let's see him go toe with me.
Let's go
at
toe to
that.
toe.
Then even on
let's
that
go.
level, he goes to another level and shames them all and says, he's like, is this what really we want to show our roles to the kids? We be role models for children. Is this what you want to see? Is a beard chugging quarterbacks and stuff? So it's great. He goes after every part of it and tries to make everyone feel bad about it and everything, and defending himself, all ultra defensive
all at the same time.
So I mean, it was pretty amazing and I think funny at the same time. So it's
and that's the thing is like he's a very emotional type of guy. So you've noticed this in the recent past too, is that anytime he takes flack for any one thing, it's almost like he has to represent himself in the public's eye, in the media, like in the locker room. He's got to address whatever's bothering him to get it off his chest and to reinforce whatever how well he played or how poor he played or his injuries. People have recently said that he has issues staying healthy, so how long does he have type of thing. So he takes that to heart, and he takes it so much so that he feels like he has to address it every single time when something comes up.
Yeah, so I mean, and we were talking about other things that are going on in the news. Recently, Roger Goodell just brought up the point here there about shortening the preseason. You know, it's been debates and talks about it, and also we're hearing from the Players Association now with contracts coming and prepared to save your money, and all the CBA that's coming after 2020. And so the big topic I think we're going to talk about real quick here is the addition of 18 games that Roger Goodell brought up here with it, and also the subtraction of some of the preseason games. And I think it's an interesting topic just because I think at one point everybody had a stance on this. I was always against it and looking at it as the the health point of view, because again, if you're trying to say that you want to protect the player's health and you want to say, it's all about them, but you want to add 2 more games,
right?
Does that really show you're trying to protect their health, and stuff?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a different way to look at it. And the way it fits along with the preseason games, I think, is interesting because he has talked to the coaches and things about this and teams, and the coaches said they're kind of fine with it. They said that they can evaluate the players that they need and everything all in the allotted amount of time and not have 4. But so they were thinking about not even shorten it for down to 2, but maybe 3 games. And I'm kind of cool with that. 3 games, you lose 1 game because Goodell is saying, it's not really good quality football. A lot of people see it, and they're kind of not so much people watching it. They're kind of like,
Yeah, but it is
and there.
definitely more about talent and evaluation.
Yeah, that's what I think.
To make those roster cuts. It's not really about the game on the field to appease the fans.
Right.
It's more about it's a period of time through training camp, through the preseason games, to give the coaches and staff time to evaluate the roster, evaluate the talent that they have in order to make the best possible decision when coming to the final 53-man roster.
Right, and I think that could even be done, you're seeing a lot more of cross-team scrimmages or practices and things like that, and I think maybe they'll add a little bit more of that so you can get a little both of all that stuff. Have a good show, guys. Looking good. Thank you, Zach. Zach chimes in. It's a pleasure having him on here. We thank you very much for checking it out. And so they're saying they could pretty much evaluate that. And like you said, it's an evaluation process. And I think the NFL initially is like, well, if we could try to make money on this and televise them and stuff, it would be great. Right. Now they've seen that, maybe we can just keep this. If the product's not all there, we can still have these guys evaluate and, like you said, do those practices together, do your evaluation without everybody watching, and still get down what they need to get down.
And that's the thing at the end of the day. The coaches, this works if they do decide to go forward and do this and shorten that preseason, Roger Goodell, the commissioner, has had various conversations with head coaches, with members of the staffs from various different teams to try to get an idea of, is this a necessity? Do we need to have all 4 preseason games to evaluate the rosters? And from what he's hearing no. He's hearing we don't need 4 preseason games. Let's shorten it, because what's going to happen is, by shortening it, even though it's 1 game that they take away, by shortening the preseason, you have a better chance of being healthy going into the regular season. I know it's only taken 1 week away, but it's 1 week less of the practices, like the when everyone's competing. When you're on that 90-man roster, everybody's fighting for that job. They want to make that 53 spot. So they're going hard against each other, and on top of that, when the games come up, they're playing hard again, or even harder against an opponent. So all that rigorous physicality that they have to endure, it all builds up. So by getting rid of that extra week of preseason, I think that's going to alleviate big time a lot of the physicality that they take on during that training camp period, which in turn it's going to work out for them. Possibly each team might be healthier, and that's what I think they're looking at. Can you evaluate the talent in 3 weeks? Yeah, we can. Okay. So in turn, it could lead to maybe less injuries, hopefully, for each team, and then going into the regular season, they still have their finished product.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us what you think. If you think even 3 games for preseason instead of 4 is fine, I think that's a good good direction to
I
go
think
in.
it's a step
Again,
in the right
it's
direction.
One less game, they can still evaluate what they need to, and they're not taking away that much more football with us, and it allows for them to add into like 2 more games to make it an 18-game season here. So this is where we're going to move to next, and there's been always opinions about this. 18 games is too much. You're talking about health and safety. Well, if we eliminate one of the preseason games, maybe that'll help out for health and safety a little bit. So you add additional 2. And I've heard multiple arguments about this. I thought maybe, again, the health issue. But then also Mike Golick was on Golick and Wingo. And here's Zach here chimes in. We'll just bring him up first. I think all 4 is necessary. Why change it if it's always been like that? Preseason is for rookies and picks and make the name for themselves and to make the team.
And that's the thing is that
That's
coaches,
the one argument. But
coaches,
they said, yep.
coaches and staffs have a lot of them has said, the majority has said to Roger Goodell himself, they've had conversations to where they don't need 4 weeks to evaluate their talent. That's what they're telling them. They could get rid of a week and have it cut down to 3 weeks, and they would still be fine with. They've already done their due diligence with every player, and for 3 weeks of football in that training camp period, they've got enough information for them to move forward and make those tough decisions for that final 53. So that's what the negotiation right here is all about, is to see should they do it? Is it worth it in the long run? Which I think it's going to benefit the players. If the coaches can go ahead and evaluate the roster in 3 weeks' time and still make the right decisions, going forward, it's going to work out for the players as well, because now it's like I know it's only a week taken away, but again, you might have a healthier roster going into the regular season, which bodes well for the organization as well as the players.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and then even if you're short in that too, if there are other football opportunities, we know how arena football is picking up more too in the XFL too as well. Maybe it gives a chance for those guys to maybe jump into that market as well. Who knows? But now moving on to the 18 games now. When you move on, a lot of people have had opinions. Like I said, Mike Golick had an opinion. I want to bring up one where Tony Dungy was interviewed by Pro Football Talk, and this is what he's quoted as saying, I think it would be a mistake. I think one of the things that's great about the NFL now is every game matters. You've got these tight races. 16 games is a lot. You want to get into the playoffs. You want people to be ready to play meaningful games in January. I'm watching the NBA playoffs now, and you can see the effects it has on the long season. Kawhi Leonard is limping up and down the court or on the floor. Kevin Durant out. Klay Thompson may be out, and that's not what people want to see in the playoffs. We get to see some of the same thing if you add more games. I don't think it'd be good for the players. I don't think it'll be good for the product. So that's what Tony Dungy says via Pro Football Talk interview here. So he is against it. But and I heard Mike Golick, like I was saying on the radio when he was bringing it up, he says, listen, how many teams make the playoffs, like 16 or whatever? They're all playing extra games. They're playing, say, 17 to almost 18. When you go to the Super Bowl, you're doing 19 games, So they've done it before. So, I mean, why are you complaining about 2 other games, in the season? And I know this is a big. He was going off, and I said, well, now those teams go. That turns into like 21 games,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right.
You add in 21 games now to it. Now
and you just look at all the injuries that mount up right now, and this is only a 16-game season. You have the bye week, which makes it 17 technically, but if you're adding 2 more games, you already see like hamstring pulls, ACL tears, like through the roof. It's like. It's like almost like a roll of the dice every week. Who's going to get an injury? And it happens every single week. Somebody goes down with either a major injury or even if it's a minor injury where they're still out several weeks, it hurts the team. Now you want to add 2 more games? 2 more games on top of what's going to happen? Now, if you add those 2 games, and believe me, they add 2 more games, it makes the season even more competitive because I know before you have 16, every game counts, right? Well, 18, every game still counts, and on top of that, your whole team is at risk for any injury for 18 weeks instead of 16. It doesn't sound right to me. Now you're putting the players at even more of a risk of getting hurt because by adding those 2 games at the end of the season, plus you got playoffs. So the teams that are going to the playoffs, their season just gets way longer, and There's a possibility where you're going to have half your team healthy going into the stretch, and that's not what the coaches want. That's not what the staff, organization, the owners, none of them want that. In my mind, and this is my opinion, I just think that's going to be adding too much to an already very physical game, and we've already seen catastrophic numbers of injuries already with 16.
Right, and now when they're talking about extended playoffs now too and adding more teams, now you're talking about half of your product that's going to be on the field now being out there to potentially get injured because they're playing more games.
But
make
it
it to the
does
playoffs.
depend how they formalize that whole
addition.
Are they really adding more teams? Are they going to just say, because we've seen it before in the past where a team wins a division, like we'll just use Tennessee Titans as an example. They kind of backed their they ended up winning the division. They kind of backed their way into the playoffs. They were in the wild card, and they didn't. A lot of people didn't think they deserved to even be in the playoffs. However, in another division, a second-place team gets knocked off when they had a winning record and never saw playoffs. So I wonder if their mentality going forward is maybe, we want to extend the playoffs, but that's because you have your division winners, and then some of the second-place teams in respectful divisions, maybe they deserve to be in the playoffs because they're a better team than some of the teams that won their division. So if that's the case, I could kind of get along with that. I could be okay with that. But if it's just, still, comes to seeding or whatever and like, oh, well, this guy gets in because he's in that division, I think that's wrong. I think I think the best teams at the end of the regular season should be getting into the playoffs and competing for that Super Bowl.
And like you said, concerned about being healthy. That's some of the players' concern here. When you talk about the CBA, that's what they're concerned about is like the long-term effects of this, adding the 2 extra games, especially if you're a playoff team, every year even too, because you compound 2 to 3 extra games every season on yourself.
Right.
And with that, even just your health, about guaranteed money. You see all the players are going for guaranteed money now. And if there's less of an opportunity for that, that's what they would rather try and do. Now they're going to go more than ever. If they go to 18 games, they're going to go more than ever to try and get that extra guaranteed money, because if they're going to be putting their bodies through that, they want to make sure that they're going to be compensated. Now, I've heard of different angles to attack this whole situation. Okay. Some people have talked about now with these extra games, you're getting extra money. So how about, due to injuries, grab a couple more roster spots. Now you add it from instead of 52 to say 57, or even all the way to 60 now. 60 guys, a 60-man roster, a 53-man roster, a 60-man roster. You could do that. And also, one I was aboard with, which I really enjoyed, was say you're going to add your 18 games. Now, does that mean 2 extra played games? So now you're going to have, a 19-week season? How about you make it to a 20-week season, and you add an extra bye week in there? So now you get 2 bye weeks. So you get your 2 extra games, so it breaks it up again. So everybody has a 2 resting weeks. That makes it easier for even more teams to go to London if they even wanted to push that idea, or Winnipeg, like they're going to be trying out in the preseason this year. Something like that opens up more opportunities for that. You get an extra resting day. It's an even number, because I don't know, even odd numbers bother me kind of in a sense. I don't know, I'm just weird like that. But you do that, and then that's even another, it helps you go into the playoffs. What do you think about that option, Joe? Now an extra bye week, make it 20-week season. Now you get 18 games now, What do you think about that option?
I mean, it's a good option. I mean, and you know what? If you add that extra bye week, it's almost like you're just adding 1 extra game, almost in a sense, because you'll be able to split it up like in thirds almost. Your season will be split up in thirds, so it might make it a little easier for that pill to be swallowed for the players, for the organizations. That's an interesting take.
Yeah, that's where I start to lean a little bit into agreeing.
However, you're still adding 2 more games. You're still, that's a long grind. I mean, for football, for the NFL, I think you already have, like I go back to the injuries. The injuries are all at an all-time high already. And you also got to worry about concussions. You're also, having your players go on the field for another 2 games, a lot more chances of not only being injured but more concussions, because this game is so violent. It's almost every single play someone's getting popped. at any given time, whether it's a safety crushing the running back, where the quarterback happens to somehow get a hit on him, and hopefully they don't throw a penalty flag. It's just like every play, there's such a potential for a dramatic hit, and even in the lines, D line, O line, they're hitting every single play. You know, there's no time off for them. I know they're not getting, running starts at each other, but it's very physical, and I just say, like, even if you add that extra bye week in there to kind of help split it up, you're still having a long season where players have a more potential to get injured.
Right, and like as you're talking about it, it kind of reminded me of look at Todd Gurley now.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley wasn't really available during the Super Bowl.
No.
Everybody's wondering what was going on.
A lot of people were.
Was it his injury still?
Right.
Was it, he was just being,
just
benched because he wasn't playing well?
Are they just resting him, that type of thing?
And now you're seeing he's going to handle less of a workload here.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about, and that's happening now. So you're going to add 2 games now. Is going to wreck the star players being out there. Look what it's done with the NBA. If you look back here now, we're just going to bring this up again. Tony Dungy says, he kind of compares it to the NBA and having, Kawhi Leonard, limping around and not having 3 of the starters
Klay Thompson
for the Golden State Warriors here.
Right.
But
so
but that's the NBA though too. That's 82 games. I mean, that's a lot. It's grueling. It's
but
long.
I get what Tony's saying.
What he's saying here, but that's what I'm saying here with to say Todd Gurley. Do you have the possibility that you're going to lose your stars?
Yes.
You know what I mean? So is that and does it affect the people watching the game?
Right. Absolutely, it does. And also on top of that, you might see if they do extend the season, that's gonna take away all featured positions. Especially your running back position, which is already kind of in dire straits. There's already teams making moves to where you don't just have one guy as the featured back. Now you're having 1 to 2, maybe even 3 or 4. You're starting to see a lot of teams add a lot of running back depth on top of having their go-to guy. So if you are extending that season, even though it's another 2 games, you're going to see guys take less snaps like a Todd Gurley. You're going to see guys like Ezekiel Elliott. There's no way. You add 2 more games. Ezekiel Elliott is running as many times as he does behind that Cowboys line. He's going to take a pounding. And he could, by the time the season does finally end, he might get an injury going into the playoffs. He might not be able to play, the first round, second round, whatever the case may be. And that's not going to appease the fans. That's going to frustrate and anger the fans. I don't think that's what the NFL wants.
I think the one issue, too, that if you look at the NBA compared to the NFL, too, NBA still, again, has 82 games. What's the problem that they have in the NBA even right now? Oh, I'm going to this game and paying money to go see LeBron play in L.A. or whatever, and all of a sudden he's taking resting games off or whatever during the season.
Yeah.
He can. Do you think an NFL team is going to say, well, we're because we added 2 games, we're going to rest Zeke this game? No, still, because even those 18 games, every game matters still, even if you add 2 more.
Definitely.
And to lose that star player in that, I mean, that is major for them. You can have rotational players there's only 5 men on the court for each team in the NBA. You have 11 on each side. I mean, it's going to be astronomical if you don't have your star player out there and he wants to rest a game. He's not going to do that.
And that's
so you're
going to
get that workload.
Is going by your point. What's going to happen in the NFL then? They add those 2 extra games. You might see teams rest guys for the last 2 weeks if they have already clinched.
Right.
Or
and how does that
if they've
affect
already
ticket
clinched
sales?
the conference or the division or what have you.
Because they already do it now.
And they do it now, but it's usually the last week of the season.
Maybe
last
last week.
week.
So you're saying the last week.
So
again,
but now you add 2 more weeks. If they have this, if their division is clinched, if their conference is clinched for number 1 seed, number 2 seed, whatever, you're going to look at this extra 2-game season, and they're going to do a lot of the same. If they happen to get a big jump start and they are in command of the conference, division, whatever it is, they're going to rest the players for the last 2 weeks. Maybe more than that. It depends where they stand. And that's got to be concerning, like, as a fan, like, if the season ticket holders, the guys that want to go check out their team when they're in town or traveling to go see their team, next thing you know, they're going to see the New York Football Giants, and, you go there, like, I want to see what Golden Tate can do in this offense. I'm excited to go see him. Saquon Barkley, Evan Ingram, all these guys. You go there, guess what? Evan Ingram is resting. Saquon Barkley's resting. They don't have – so you get there, and you got to be disappointed at that point when that kind of news comes out. So it's going to be frustrating, I think, in the long run. If they decide to do this, I think it'll be a mistake, just like Tony Dungy says. I agree with him, even though you bring up a good point. What if they add an extra bye week, which I think you would it's a necessity. You have to if you're going to do that. And by extending it, I just think it's bad. I think because those injuries are just going to continually pile up, and perhaps it could possibly lead to derailing your team's run to the playoffs because it's so much longer that your team's banged up by the time it gets to the end of the season and they just miss the playoffs. And even if you make it that far, you're all banged up before you get even into round one.
Yeah, and one other thing I was thinking of too, I'm like, how does that affect pay? Say all of a sudden I sign you to a contract because it's all salary. It's not hourly. I don't go in and play the game and I play this many hours or this many minutes in the game.
Those
it's salary.
contracts.
All of a sudden I have to play 2 more games. I'm making the same. So I'm making less per game now.
Yeah, but
because I have to do that extra one. And I'm like, how do you do? I get now a money boost? Does every team say now you can add like a signing another $2 million bonus to every guy now that you sign? No, is it going to be that way? So I mean, players. That's where the players in this whole thing.
Your contract, whatever they are currently under, that's what their contract is. So if you add 2 games, all that does is it spreads the money 2 more games extra. They divvy it up because they all get a weekly check. Based on average of their contract. Now, if you add 2 games, it's going to be terrible for the players initially, but if they stick with the 18-game season, if that's what they decide to do, the contracts will be reflected later on when they sign new deals or cancel a deal and rework a deal. It's going to be, fitted to what the season dictates.
There you go. So, I mean, what do you guys think? Chime in. What do you think about the preseason games? The 18 games extension. I mean, there's a lot of different options there they can go with. And we'll see, come in maybe 2020 or maybe they start to talk about it, if we're at the end of next season. Who knows? But there you go. There's talk about that. And, Joe, I think it's time for our fact of the day here, our In the Know fact of the day. This was fun coming up with this one here, too. I try and come up with different
I got to commend you.
ones.
I liked how you brought that in right there.
Oh, excellent. I try.
You add a little bit more energy.
Energy. That's what I try and do.
That's what you need.
There you go. All right. So
what we got?
We're talking about agreements. Here we go. Now, since no one could agree on the realignment of the NFC after the AFL-NFL merger, the 5 best plans were to put into vase, and Pete Rozell's secretary selected one at random to select how they separated the NFC.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
That's how they decided to go with it. Instead of coming up with a formulated plan, they're like, these are 5 plans, and they're going to throw it in a vase, boom, pick it, and that's the one.
So basically, before fantasy football existed, before you figured out, who's picking where, this is where it stems from right here. You pick a card, and that's what place you're going to be in. Wow.
It always comes down to a lottery, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? And that's what it goes to. All right, so that's our fact of the day. And let's go. Why don't you hit us up with some with the drop here, Joe? And we'll hit them up with some headlines. Oh, wait, I don't have that queued up yet. So we're not going to do that. Yeah, all right. So how about you hit us with some music, and we'll do the top 10. How about our top 10 list here? All right, sorry. Very lazy on that one. Here we go. All right, we got some good music going here. All right. Sorry, I had the wrong thing queued up here. All right, we are going to go into now our 2019 top 10 projected running backs.
And that's what it is. It's the top 10 projected running backs. So it's not really, we're not rating the running backs currently right now. We're trying to project to see what they're going to do throughout the 2019 season and rate them that way.
Yep. Let me get them in order here. Oh, why are we not over here? Cut. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. I'm sorry. Trying to do things all at the same time. I'm all rusty. I don't know. See, I threw myself off when I wanted to do my original lineup I wanted to do here. So I'm all screwed up here. So, last week, tell them what we did last week with the list, Joe.
So last week we did the top 10 projected quarterbacks, and there was a little bit of surprises there. It was a little bit more difficult, I think, than the running backs that we did this week, because there's a little bit more variables with quarterbacks. There's QBR ratings, there's the amount of touchdowns, yardage, how many their completion percentage, a lot that went into it, and it was a pretty long night, to say the least, trying to figure it all out. Now we have the top 10 projected running backs, and this was a little bit easier, but still tough. I mean, we both we did a joint list here to try to hammer out and hash out the details here. There was probably about 3 or 4 running backs that we cut out that both of us could have made an argument to make the top 10 for. But again, this is not an easy task to take.
Absolutely.
And simply to start it off, I think we'll start at number 10 here. And we have none other than Alvin Kamara. I know there's going to be a lot of backlash for this. Him at number 10. I think with Mark Ingram out, you have Latavius Murray coming in to kind of help with those duties that Ingram, left. But Alvin Kamara, I think you're going to see a jump in production from him. Kamara, yeah, we already saw one of the know-it-alls chime in. What?
There you go.
But yeah. I mean, I think that I kind of fought to get him a little bit higher, but. Looking at his production from last year and trying to project this year what he can do, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I think he could be a little bit higher, but just coming in, he's still in the number, at the number 10 spot. But Alvin Kamara, a very unique type of running back, very elusive, a guy that is a great receiver out of the backfield and can rush as well.
Yeah, we had a difficult time coming in here. I almost didn't even want him in the list, so Joe and I have debated it here and there. We had a bunch of other ones in here, so yeah, there was a lot of debate, a lot of guys
and that's the thing.
Where we had to kick out.
Yeah.
And when you're discussing a list like this, too, because you got to think about it. You talk about injuries. There was injuries last year, and guys that were on serious paces to crack the top 10 that weren't and ended up getting injured, that had great seasons up until getting injured. Right. So now they're back into the pool. So we wanted to look at it and see maybe they get a chance if they stay healthy, if they could possibly potentially make this list.
Definitely. What do we got at number 9?
All right, moving in at number 9 here with we have Marlon Mack here. He moves into number 9 again to talk about a guy who is on fire, moving the ball, and gets injured. He still put up ridiculous numbers. He was like around 900 and something yards, and he only played 12 games, I think.
Yeah,
or something
he had like 960 yards, somewhere around there, but he only played in like 12 games.
Mm-hmm.
So just imagine that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And you also got to look at too. You got to look at every criteria of each team here. Is that Marlon Mack, as successful as he was rushing the ball, he's also a deadly receiver out of the backfield. And coming into an Indianapolis Colts team that now they finally have a star-studded offensive line built. They added Devin Funchess this year to help with the receiving duties, along with T.Y. Hilton. And you gotta look at how much more successful this team is going to be. We finally noticed that Eric Ebron is going to be the go-to guy at tight end for them as well. So they're going to be spreading the ball around. It's going to be harder for defenses to combat that. And with that, Marlon Mack, we see him taking a jump this upcoming season. At number 8.
At number 8, here it is.
We have, this could be a shock to some people, none other than Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry. I know, easy, take a breather, and hear us out on this. Derrick Henry cracks the top 10 for this upcoming season because, and this is a big if, there's a question mark with this one too. We really don't know how the Tennessee Titans offense is going to be run. We saw the success that Derrick Henry had late in the season last year and how of a juggernaut he really was. And quite honestly, if they continue to run him this upcoming season, we could see him probably crack the top 5. But because we're really not sure what Arthur Smith is going to do as the new offensive coordinator, we do know that the offense is going to be pretty much the same, with maybe sprinkled in a few wrinkles here and there for play calling. But then again, it's a big if. But so if they do run the ball more often, we could see Derrick Henry taking a bigger jump up. But if he doesn't, he's still in the lower tier.
Yeah, and Derrick Henry, again, he was just running the Wildcat a lot last year. And he
Ridiculous.
didn't even keep it on the Wildcat. The whole idea was like, oh, who's going to have it? He didn't really keep it. And the last 4 weeks, he really exploded. And he had that one big game where he had a huge, 100-yard run and things like that. And so you got to see the potential of what he could do. And now if he does that every week, he ain't going to pull off a huge run like that, but he's going to get you over 100 yards every week. So, I mean, it looks good for him. And to finally, maybe this season, be able to have that potential to do it. We don't know exactly what Arthur Smith is going to do. He had said he's going to possibly need some help with the play calling, and but it's going to be basically the same type of offense. But we'll see where he gears it.
And this is usually what happens is when an offensive coordinator leaves and then they promote from within. Usually the offense pretty much stays the same. However, they do make a little change here and there, maybe add a few more plays or take some plays out that weren't there originally. Also, you got to remember, too, is Derrick Henry is also going to be competing for the ball as well with Dion Lewis. The running back came over from the Patriots, and now he's more of the receiving back. So I don't know how much. We're going to have to wait and see how Arthur Smith utilizes both of these guys and whether they use Derrick Henry enough to get him in that top 10. So it is a big if, but if it pays off, we see Derrick Henry exploding on the scene.
There you go. Zach says right here, he's chiming in. He's curious if you have Le'Veon Bell out here, and actually he agrees with it so far.
Well, you're going to have
so.
to wait until you see the rest of the list.
There you go. See the list. All right. So this one might be a surprise here for you. We're going to move it on to
what's next.
Number 7 here, back into the top 10. Devonta Freeman here, So this was a tough one again. We were analyzing everything, going over. We had a bunch of guys in this list, had to narrow them down, and so we bring Devonta Freeman in here. And a lot of it is because they get 2 new rookie offensive linemen in there to plug in that are great pickups for the Atlanta Falcons. And
if they pan out, I'm telling you right now, they got a lockdown offensive line.
Tevin Campbell now moves on to a different
San Francisco
49ers now. So now Devonta Freeman has it all to himself there. I mean,
there.
The other backup that he had there isn't even probably going to touch the field so much.
Ito Smith, are you kidding me?
Yeah, Ito Smith.
Plus, you got to remember too, the last time Freeman actually had all the soul carries and everything, he destroyed teams.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was running over 100 yards, probably over 120 yards rushing almost every single week. On top of that, he was getting all the receiving duties out of the backfield. He was a bigger part of the offense and just decimated it all. Last season, didn't even play. He played a couple of games and then he was done for the year. So we expect – you also got to remember, too, is that look at this Atlanta's weaponry on offense. It's going to be tough to stop Calvin Ridley. Guys like Mohamed Sanu coming back healthy as well. Julio Jones is still there. Austin Hooper at tight end. Good luck trying to stop everybody all at once. So we also see, because this is such a high-powered offense, Devonta Freeman, that's also going to help him out as well. So we see him at 7. And number 6. We have the Cincinnati Bengal, Joe Mixon, at number 6. Joe Mixon actually did very well for himself last year. We expect him to be somewhat in the same range this year. We know that Andy Dalton is still there. They didn't move on from Andy. They didn't decide to go in the draft and get somebody to perhaps push him. And Zach Taylor is now the head coach of the Bengals, who came over from the Rams. So let's see how much tutelage that went from Sean McVay, how much is going to be instilled in Cincinnati. Is he going to, obviously it's going to be a new offense. So we don't know what to expect, really. And with Joe Mixon, as talented of a back he is, how good this offensive line has been upgraded, we think that he's going to be heavily involved still, and he's going to be in that mid-tier range in the top 10.
Yeah, so, I mean, he really came to his it was like his coming out party a bit. I mean, he started to trend upwards. But last year, I think, was really lights out, where you got to see a lot of Joe Mixon and what he was really made of. And with a full season here, I think he's going to be great. And he'll move right there, stay that. He was in the top 10 last year, so I think he's only going to do the same type of production, if not better, this season. So I like Joe Mixon there as well. That's where we came up with him.
Number 5.
6.
What do we got?
So now moving on to number 5. It could be a surprise for some people. It's Todd Gurley. Again, So
what? What do you mean Todd Gurley's at 5?
Sean McVay and things like that. and so his offense, the way it's going to go, Todd Gurley, who was number 3 overall in rushing yards last season, takes a step back here in overall production. We think, again, we were going to bring him back, I think, anyways. But then even now, the opening stuff that's coming out with less of a bell cow, the workhorse for the team, he's going to take a tick back here and maybe nurse an injury that he still has there. So, I mean, what do you think with that, Joe?
And here's the thing, too, with Todd Gurley is coming out of college football for Georgia Bulldogs. He had concern with his knees. That was the one thing, is that they were kind of worried, and that's why he kind of slid in the draft a tiny bit. He slid down to, I believe, around the 10th pick, and this is actually showing you that all the reports coming out of college were correct. Now the Rams right now are having some concerns with that left knee that he has. He's having a slight issue with it. It's not as strong as it once was, and I think by now kind of letting it out there in the public's eyes, saying basically he's going to take a step back in terms of snaps, in terms of being on the field as much as he was last year, and they're going to share the workload there. So that's why he ends up dipping a little bit to number 5.
Yeah, see, like I said, we don't know where exactly he's going to go here, nursing the injury. We didn't see him in the Super Bowl, so, I mean, that was an issue there. So carrying on, we think he takes a step back here and moves back to number 5. And still, we're trying to see maybe if Le'Veon Bell is going to crack the top 5 here, Joe.
No, it's
but
getting
right
up there.
Now we're going to move into our
Number
number
4
4 spot.
We have Melvin Gordon.
Yes,
That's right. Melvin Gordon, who also was a guy that ended up getting hurt. He was kind of like Marlon Mack's range. He got hurt. He probably played about, I want to say, 8, 9, 10 games, somewhere around there. And even though he missed at least about half the season, he still had over 1,000 yards rushing. Mm-hmm. Still was a major part of this offense. And quite honestly, I think the offense goes through Melvin Gordon. Mm-hmm. We do know that Phillip Rivers is one of the best quarterbacks out there and everything, but Melvin Gordon, he utilizes him so much in the passing game. He's heavily utilized in the running game, and I think we both think it's going to continue this upcoming season. And not only that, if he manages to stay healthy, we could see him easily cracking that 4 spot for overall.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was looking at the yards he was putting up before. He had almost 1,200 yards before he got injured. So, I mean, this guy was insane.
His average yards per carry was 5.1 yards per carry, which is insane.
Right.
So we expect him to fully go forward and crack that top 5.
Absolutely here with the Chargers, who could possibly surge into the playoffs again. Zach chimes in here. He likes Gurley at the 5 choice. So
you have chosen wisely.
That's what Zach says. So thank you, Zach. Zach's on fire tonight. He is our commenter of the night, I think, so far. All right. All right, so now here we go. We are looking at the 2019 top projected running backs. Let's hit up number 4, Joe. Or number 3.
Number 3, buddy.
Christian McCaffrey now. This could be, maybe minds are blowing a little bit here right now, but this guy, again, was
heavily
lights
utilized.
out with every position, he could play there for the Carolina Panthers. You know what I mean?
And does.
I think I had questions or reservations last year, and was he going to be able to handle the workload by himself? You know what I mean? With exiting and some of the running backs. And he just shut my mouth, I guess. I was like, all right, I guess he is able to handle it. And then some.
He's a difference maker.
You
and
know
he's
what
a guy that he's heavily utilized all across the board. He can play the slot for them, which he does at times. He also in the backfield. There was a lot of concerns about maybe running between the tackles for him because he didn't have such a big frame coming into the NFL. And now everybody has gotten to see how tough of a runner he is despite his stature. You look at him right now. They took a picture of him at one of the OTAs. Mm-hmm. The guy now, after working out for 2 straight years in football, looks like a mini Hulk. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's too many questions now that we've seen his production and what he can do. He can run inside. He can run outside. He can play slot. He can come out of the backfield on wheel routes and just catch it and go. Such a big part of this offense. Without Christian McCaffrey, this offense would be struggling right now, I think. And because of him, that's why we have him. As long as this guy stays healthy, which he's been lucky to do so far, we see him cracking the top 3. So he's at 3. Number 2, we have none other than Ezekiel Elliott, the gerbil himself. This guy just looks like a regular woodchuck. I can't stand his hair, and the beard is funny. His smile is creepy. I'm sorry, but he looks creepy. So, but anyway, nonetheless, he is a great running back. Ezekiel Elliott, he has one of the best offensive lines to run behind, and they utilize him heavily. Just rushing, though. He doesn't really receive too much, so he's definitely the featured back. I kind of wonder now that they're going into the season, though, and their offensive line hasn't been the healthiest. You know, Tyron Smith at left tackle, he's been banged up. He's got a back issue with him. There's a lot of speculation on how much longer he can play. He could have a shorter career than expected. And the one positive thing for this offensive line is Travis Frederick is coming back this year. He's finally healthy of that disease that he incurred last year, kept him out the whole season.
Yeah.
He's the quarterback of this offensive line. He makes all the checks and balances on the line, reading the defenses, and does a fantastic job. Pro Bowl center Travis Frederick is returning, along with a lot of injured bodies now coming back for this offensive line. So we see Ezekiel Elliott not necessarily reaching the top of the hill here, but he comes right below at number 2.
Right, last year's top rusher, and he still did it even, like I said, where there was a depleted offensive line at times. He always puts up numbers. This guy is a workhorse. Whether he's getting suspended for games for stuff out there or not, he still puts it up. And like I said, I can't stand this guy. I want to get here with Joe, too. I can't stand this guy.
I know.
But I am one
He's
that,
so good.
again, I cannot deny talent, and I cannot not deny what he does on the football field. And he is amazing. And so,
this is the craziest thing, too, is whenever teams go against the Cowboys, he's the offense runs through him. Why not just concentrate on the best player and stuff him? I don't care if you got to bring everybody up. Force Dak Prescott to throw the ball.
all right, here we go. Zachary is
What's that
already
guy?
he's already commenting in. He's like, tell me Saquon is number 1 and Le'Veon Bell isn't on here. I don't know. I know he didn't play last year, but he's always one of the best running backs.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're gonna add a little drama then to this. You know,
That's
here we
right.
go. We're gonna throw here. I'm gonna fade it over, Joe, and you're gonna read off from 10 to 2, and then unleash the number 1. Here
Let's
we go.
do it. Okay, number 10, we have Alvin Kamara. I know it's a surprise. Me and Jim have battled. We've arm wrestled. We've, tug of war. But we ended up, I kept him in the top 10 for everybody. Jim didn't even want him on the top 10. I blame him. He's so mean. But anyway, we got 9 at Marlon Mack. We see him taking a step up. Was injured last year, coming back strong this year, especially with this new and improved offense, new receivers like Devin Funchess. I think he's going to take a boost up. At number 8, Derrick Henry, the monster of the South. I mean, this guy, he runs through people, he throws people to the side and keeps going for 80-yard touchdown. He's unbelievable. But the biggest question for him is, and this is what's going to dictate where he sits in this top 10, is if they run him enough versus going to the pass. We don't know what Arthur Smith, the new offensive coordinator who is taking on this offense now. We don't know how he's going to run this offense, so that's a question mark. He lands at 8. Number 7, Devontae Freeman, injured last year. Didn't really get to play hardly at all. We know that the last time Devontae Freeman has had sole majority reps and carries and for this Atlanta offense, he's dominated. So we expect him to do that. He's in at number 7. Tevin Coleman moves on to the 49ers, giving Freeman the green light. Number 6, Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, Cincinnati Bengals running back. He's a consummate professional. He's a tough running back to bring down. He's good in the receiving. He's also good at running between the tackles. He's good at everything. And with the Bengals, we see him being utilized just as much because he's the go-to guy in that offense besides A.J. Green. Joe Mixon is going to be in that middle tier area at number 6. Number 5, Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley, we see him taking a little bit of a hit here. We know there's some concerns with that left knee issue, and due to that, the Rams have also stated that they're going to tail him back, reel him back a little bit on reps, how many times he's out there, how many times he's taking the ball. They're going to split and divvy up the carries a little bit in that backfield. So he ends up at number 5. Number 4, Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon, we see him taking a big leap forward as long as he stays healthy. Last year, he only played in about 8 games or so, half the season. This year, he's going to take an even bigger stride. And even so, he still cracked the 1,000-yard mark in rushing. So we think if he can stay healthy for all 16 games, watch out, everybody. He's going to break the top 5 and possibly top 3. Number 3, Christian McCaffrey. A lot of speculation coming out of college. Is he big enough? Can he handle running inside? Can he handle the every down reps as a featured back should? But everybody was surprised. But me, to be honest, because I saw him as being a dominant type of running back. Now you look at him with the Carolina Panthers. He plays slot receiver. He can he can catch out of the backfield. He can run between the tackles, run outside. He's a very dynamic player. And he's also bulked up the last couple of years, so watch out for Christian McCaffrey. We see him cracking the top 3. Number 2, Ezekiel Elliott takes a step down from the pedestal just a tad bit. He led in rushing last year. He comes back again with the Cowboys. A lot of healthy offensive linemen coming back, which is going to help Zeke even more. We see him still kind of being in the top 3. We got him at number 2. Number 1, none other than Saquon Barkley, everybody. I know, it's exciting, right? This is pretty amazing for it's a deserving of the horn. Saquon Barkley, his rookie year coming into a Giants team that they made some slight minor upgrades to the offensive line. Then they got banged up. They got hurt for most of the year. Odell Beckham Jr. was in and out of the lineup. He was also banged up as well. Evan Ingram as well. When you look at that season and how injury-plagued the Giants were, but Barkley was that one bright, shining light of that offense. He carried this offense and helped Eli Manning immensely. Not only running the ball with like a second, third tier type of line, but also catching the ball and making plays out of it. We think Saquon Barkley is his rookie year making that much of an impression. We think he's going to catapult to the number 1 spot in the NFL. And I know some people out there are saying, well, where's Le'Veon Bell? Well, to be honest, Le'Veon Bell is not in the top 10. We don't really see him making the top 10, and there's for a few reasons.
This was a debate, too.
Yeah, this was kind of a debate, too.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's tough because we are trying to project how well they're going to do, but by looking at this Jets offense, you know, their defense is awesome. I mean, they've made upgrades. They look stellar on defense. But offensively, what did they really change? They added Jamison Crowder, the new slot receiver for the Jets. But after that, there hasn't been a whole lot of change. They added Le'Veon Bell, but then that's it. You got Sam Darnold returning as a second-year man. We've seen that he has struggles last year. Now, granted, it's going to be his second year. He looks to be much more improved than last year. Hopefully he doesn't make as many mistakes, but he made an awful lot his rookie year. And with this team coming in, I expected them to kind of like boost this offense even more for him. Give him some more better weapons. That way he can, distribute the ball. Now we're under a new regime, under Adam Gase's, tenure there now. New offense. I wonder how everything's going to shake out. It's a little unexpectancy here, how this offense is going to be utilized. And Le'Veon Bell, for that matter. You got an offensive line that's not as good as the Steelers' offensive line that he once ran behind. And the weapons that Sam Darnold has to distribute to isn't great, but it's some talent there that they can work with. I just don't know. I think what's going to end up happening is that Bell is going to be keyed on. He's the best player on that offensive side of the ball. And quite honestly, defense week to week are going to just try and make sure they just key on Bell and stop Bell. I think that's going to limit how well he does this upcoming season.
Absolutely. Like when your weapons are still Robbie Anderson, Quincy Enunwa, and Chris Herndon. I mean, you have Le'Veon Bell there.
Don't get us
you
wrong.
Gotta focus
We're not saying
on them.
that they're terrible.
No,
it's
but
just,
still, again, it's you didn't do a lot of crazy improvements. Their game plan is trying to stop Le'Veon, and if they could shut him down, especially with an offensive line, like you said, it isn't as good as Pittsburgh, where he can't maybe be as patient and make it work there. It opens up for some failures there.
He's he's one of the
we could
best
be wrong.
running
Who knows?
backs.
But again, that's the whole thing about projecting.
Right.
He was close to making the list. He was in and out. And another
He might make it.
honorable
I don't know.
mention is Sony Michel. Joe was really vying for Sony Michel.
yeah.
And yes, and he was like 15th, I think, in yardage last year. And with the Patriots, so for me, even it's a running back by committee sometimes. Like, yes, they're definitely Sony Michel is always going to get his carries. I'm not saying he's not even going to get it. They're going to go. But
I'll
one
tell you
game
right
they're going
now,
to go heavy on another
he's
guy
a-
and going heavy on another guy. But he's going to be part of their offense nonstop. I understand that. But I think as top 10 projected this year, with this coming back talent that had been injured from last year, I think he just gets bumped a little bit back. That's all. Not that he's going to limit. He's going to be worse in production. Exactly.
I
think there's so many other healthy guys now.
Right. The only thing about Sony Michel too is like because his production, he had just under 1,000 yards at like 990 something in rushing, and he only played half the season. So if he can stay healthy, we do know that he also is another guy that has knee issues. So if he stays healthy, the New England Patriots love to utilize him, whether it be receiving and running. He can do it all. If he stays healthy, he could also crack this top 10 as well.
All right, so there's our list. One last time again, Saquon Barkley we pick. Did great, outstanding last year. He was just second in overall rushing yards, and with a terrible line. Now he has an improved line. You don't have Odell Beckham Jr. there as a target. You have it spread around, so now maybe he will even step up now here with this. And that is
our top 10 projected running backs for 2019.
Absolutely. So there you go.
And one of our know-it-alls just chimes in.
Chimes in again.
He goes, you have convinced me. He goes, Le'Veon doesn't deserve to be in the top 10.
There you go.
Well, we convinced one of many.
There you go. Well, again, if you think, it's like a lot of people think, well, this person's not on this list. They're not one of the top 10 running backs in the league.
Not bad.
We're not saying they're not top 10 in the league. You know what I'm saying? We're just saying projected how they might perform and based on the way their team is. And especially sitting out a year, you have so many variables that can mess in here. And just to crack out of that, you should see the talent that was cracking out of the top 10 last year in over yardage and touchdowns and things. You'd be surprised. So you'd be like, wow, all right, this guy's here.
Yeah, and some of it is
it's not like we hate and then we love. It's everybody's in there, and it's such a tough thing to try and make a top 10.
It's tough. There was definitely a few running backs on both of our in both of our opinions that we thought should make the top 10, even like low tier top 10. But it was so hard when you have this much talent to try to sift through, and you got to make that top 10. It's pretty difficult. But know-it-alls out there.
Yeah.
Make sure you bring a friend. I wonder how many people brought a friend here, to the Football on the No show. And if you have done so, make sure you spread the word. You can follow us on YouTube, Football on the No show. Search it on there, subscribe, hit the notification bell, get all the latest and updated content that we post on there. Also, follow us on Facebook, Football on the Show. Well, it's very simple. We keep it real simple for everybody. And also on Twitter, at FB_no is our username. Go ahead and follow us there. Get all the latest news happening around the NFL world, as well as some not so, publicized tidbits.
That's true. There are a lot of good stories about positive things that some players are doing with charities and other things like that. So it's really cool and entertaining.
And also, it's also like not to toot our own horn, but like we've also go ahead and we found on Twitter there was articles about enhancing the new helmets. They're still working, by the way. They're still trying to improve the helmets, and how can we make them? There's a laboratory actually that's dedicated
and I think
for the NFL that's still diligently working on trying to make the helmets safer.
What's funny is 2017 is when they made a lot of the rules for the concussions to try and stop it.
Yeah.
There was a huge spike in 2017 in concussions and injuries, which is crazy. Again, they try to move the kicking thing. But then last year with the introduction of the new helmets, now from like 30% of players that were using the new helmets went to 75% of players, and now they're going to make it mandatory. Now that means Tom Brady needs to move on to the new helmet too, even though he doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it.
That might have been a major factor. Down to 75% of them were using that helmet.
Absolutely.
That can help there with the concussions, and it dropped it drastically.
Right. Now with all the data that's going to come out after the 2019 season, then we'll be able to look back and see how well or how poorly that all shaped out. That's right. Also, just real quick on the football helmets, in this laboratory that they're working on and trying to develop an improved helmet, they're also utilizing crash test dummies.
Oh, wow.
So they're taking all the data that they get from automobile crashes and stuff and utilizing helmets that way, and try to, instead of having these big pillow blocks inside the helmet where they're air compressed or they're cushion compressed and everything like that, now they're trying to design a helmet where it takes the blow and that cushion inside just gives more. So then it might take more of the blow on the helmet versus your head.
Interesting stuff. So there you go. Yeah, check out any of our social medias that we have out there. We're also on Snapchat too, where we have a lot of fun things to do, a lot of fun videos and voices and filters like everybody else and all the other Americans. All right, here you go. Hey, Mike Tackett's in the house. Hey, my voice is cracking again. I'm trying to keep it going.
It's our boy.
So, Mike Tackett's in here. He goes, happy hump day again. Happy hump day, Mike. Here you go. He's got a great question or comment here. What are your guys' opinion on players who hold out as camp is about to start?
Right.
When you see guys like Darius Slay, Malcolm Jenkins, Trent Williams holding out, I personally believe it's frustrating because it's taking away from the greater hierarchy, which is the team. Not to mention it's a distraction. Personally, I believe players should honor and play out the contract that they agreed to. If a player does get a new deal, it should be at the organization's discretion, not when the player agent want more money. Hashtag Mo Money, Mo Problems. Oh, I wish I had that song I could put up there, not get sued. But hey, there you go. Yeah, I mean, and we were talking about it today because even I brought it up to a coworker too. I'm like, that Snacks Harrison is thinking about holding out, and like, okay, good luck with that, bro. You know. But this is our new wave of guys that are holding out, Joe, and we hear it every year and stuff like that.
Happens every year.
And again, is it another thing where they're concerned about the health? They always want more guaranteed money because they're not getting contracts like that now.
Right.
Try and make it while they can because they don't want to get injured. What's your opinion? Do you
I
agree
don't think,
with Mike here on this?
I don't necessarily think the contracts are the issue. I think they do get guaranteed money. They also get bonuses that no one really pays attention to. There's workout bonus, so if you show up for all through the practices of OTAs and stuff, you could get a workout bonus. You could get a roster bonus just for making the roster. You can get a couple $100,000. You know what I mean? So there's some easy incentives that are in some players' contracts that can easily be obtained, and they get their money that way. So I don't really think contracts are the issue. I think the problem is ego. I understand in the marketplace for free agencies and players that get traded and they get improved contracts and stuff. Players pay attention to other players and what they're getting. And if that same player feels like, hey, why is he getting $50 million for 5 years? I play just as good or maybe even better than he does. You know, so you're seeing guys like Trent Williams, you're seeing guys like Snacks Harrison in Detroit. You're seeing these guys saying, well, you know, he got a better contract than me.
I think I'm better than him.
I think I deserve better. I think I should be. Listen, the market is the market. So if you're a free agent and you sign for X amount of money for 3 years and the signing bonus or what have you, whatever you agree to, I agree with Mike. I think players should honor that. You know, if you play well, and here's the other thing too, is you see players like Malcolm Jenkins later in his years, you know, a little older, you know, Snacks Harrison, another guy towards the end of his career. I think for some of these players, they're trying to get an increase, a raise of some sort before they ride off into the sunset, before they retire, get that last big chunk as much as they can. But here's the thing, is as you get older, your value kind of decreases. You know, the teams start to say, hey, well, why should we give you a contract when, you know, we could just go to next year's draft and draft your replacement, you know? Or in free agency, if a guy comes available and he's younger than you and we think that it balances well, we can just cut you and move on from you. So I think a lot of times these players that are kind of holding out, I'm against it, but I also get the other aspects for their, you know, they want to get that last good contract, especially late in their years. Or like you got Darius Slay, guy that's still young, who is trying to capitalize on his play right now because, again, injuries is a concern for these players, and they don't know how much longer they have with a so-called organization or nonetheless in the league, you know, whether they move from that team and go somewhere else. So there's some concern. I think stability is a big thing for them. They want to get that one last good contract that they know they could probably get, so they tend to hold out. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. I agree completely with Mike on this because here's the thing. You as a player or your agent, you agreed to a, say, 4-year deal. A 4-year deal, $50 million, what have you, whatever the other details are. It is 2 years away until your deal expires. I don't know, say you're 29 years old. You got 2 years, 30, 31. You know, as a player, as the agent, you know at 30, 31 years old, your value dips way down because now you're at even more of a risk. Your body's at more of a risk of injury. And maybe your play, quite honestly, dips a little bit. I know what they're trying to do, but at the same time, I just don't think it works. It doesn't work for the team. And for the player to try to hold out and get it, they can just move on from them. I think it's going to hurt them in the long run. And, you know, and to be honest, I mean, here's the thing. You get older, you gotta be able to say, okay, I am getting closer to the end of my time. I'm gonna write up my deal. And quite honestly, Snacks Harrison has a good deal already on the table for him. He is getting paid well, much like a lot of these other guys. They're getting paid decent. I know they want to increase. Like, you know, we just saw Xavier Howard, a corner, versus the Darius Slay thing. And this is where Darius Slay is coming from. Well, Xavier Howard's he's the highest paid corner right now in the NFL. Well, Darius Slay is thinking, well, I think I'm better than he is, so I should be the highest paid. There's always that back and forth thing that teams have to battle and try to hold on to these players when they want them. I think that it's in the end, you know, it is what
and
it
I
is.
kind of agree with you in one sense in saying, well, again, we look at Tom Brady. How many people want to hate on even Tom Brady for what he has left a lot of money out on the on the table just because he wanted to try and just keep his contract, enough to where he was happy. Oh, I'm rich still. I'm still a millionaire. I can do the things I want to do, and I can have a championship caliber team because they could spread the team out, money everywhere, and get me enough guys to where I can be a contender. We wish everybody was like that, but you know what? Not everybody's going to be like that. And they're going to have certain attitudes where they, think that they're better than others too, as well. But speaking of that from the other aspect of what you were saying before, and from a player's point of view, say all of a sudden you got 2 years left in your contract. I'm going to be say 31 instead of 29 now. Why do I leave it there at 21 and put me at a disadvantage of this negotiation to where the owner's going to come to me and say, well, now you're 31. I don't know. We might move on or just cut the pay or whatever and let you go or just see you and get this other guy instead of saying, well, right now maybe this is my best opportunity to have the leverage in this whole situation. Say, well, this is what I want now. Because I know you're going to cut me loose. So this is what I want now because I think this is where I am at now, and I deserve this. And so that's why I think they do it. Maybe they shouldn't use holding out for it, but what else do they have?
But to be honest with you, the players don't have leverage. As much
well,
as they,
I know,
as much as they
all together. But
much
I'm
as,
saying this is their only opportunity that they think they might be able to.
I know it might be
their. They don't have anything else.
Right. I know it might be their only opportunity, but it doesn't matter. Like they can. You're at 28 years old, 27 years old, and say, "I want a new deal." Okay, that's nice. But the teams that are in that position, you got to remember too. Money doesn't grow on trees. There's a cap involved. So if they don't have enough money in cap to not only give you a raise but also make the team better, in the next couple of years, they're just not going to do it. Teams are fully prepared to move on, and when they do get moved on from 27, 28, whatever have you, you go into the free agent pool. Guess what? The contract that you originally had most of the time is better than the contract that you get in free agency. So even then, you could have stayed with the contract and stayed with the team that you had, but you chose to hold out, say, "Oh, I deserve more money," and then you actually get woken up when you get into free agency as a player. The agent, the player, like, wow, okay, so this is the market, so we're going to make less than what we did have. So I think it doesn't make sense for the players. I think what it is driven by is agents.
Yeah,
I think it's their own.
Well, yeah.
I think they have their. Obviously they got. They got to make their 10% on everything, and they're trying to capitalize on their client.
Right.
But
and then also too, I think some of it is the players too, because I mean, look at Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown is a millionaire and has been an elite wide receiver, and still to this day has a chip on his shoulder for where he was drafted and things like that, and not being respected his whole career until he made it to the NFL. And again, still has that same attitude.
Yeah.
In a mansion full of golden handles,
chairs,
everything. Yeah, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean, the mentality of some of the guys too, and it's just not going to leave them sometimes. The guys are built the way they are. Aaron Rodgers is built the way he is, where he's maybe a little extra sensitive and whatever, but he's also calm, cool, and relaxed in the pocket and can do what he needs to do to win a game for you too. So, I mean, and that's where you stand with some of this. Not everybody could be Tom Brady and say, I'm going to leave this on here. I'm going to cut money. I mean,
and that's the thing.
That one time when they were trying to make money to save for Wes Welker and he took a pay cut, said, here you go, this is enough to sign with Wes Welker, and they still cut him and said, no, we're not going to do that. He could have been like, what? Are you effing kidding me, dude? I just did this so you can keep this guy. He's my friend, and you just let him walk away. You do that to him? What's up? This is what kind of organization you guys are? I'm not sticking with you.
Yeah.
Instead, he did. Kept it going, and hey, it's beneficial
for
him so far.
He knew where he was. He fit perfectly there, and he knew he was going to win more Super Bowls.
Absolutely. So that's a good question by Mike Tackett, as always.
It's
always good for him to come in and chime in and
thank you, Mike.
Everybody else has any other comments out there too. That's always good. Speaking of Mike Tackett too, I mean, we've got a lot of stuff on the horizon, Joe. 2019 is going to be an epic year for us.
It
We are
is.
moving forward to other options. I'm not going to let a cat out of the bag for anything right now, but we've got other things we're working on that we're going to reveal soon. Something's going to reveal really soon that we've been working on, but things are moving up in this season. We appreciate everybody that's come along with us, all the people that are joined to our group, our Facebook page, our YouTube subscribers, everybody out there, Periscope, Twitter. We appreciate everybody and all the help. There are more things to come, and you're going to see us live, local from anywhere that's in the upstate New York area. We're going to be doing more live shows, so we appreciate all that for everybody.
Thank you,
And-
know-it-alls.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to take it into, let's hit it up with the
All right, everybody. It's going to be a bumpy ride, so stay in.
My voice is.
The Ravens announced the former D-tackle Haloti Nada and head coach Brian Billick will enter the team's Ring of Honor, everybody. So kudos to those guys making the Baltimore Ravens Ring of Honor.
Yes, absolutely. Good job.
NFL reportedly will be easing its alcohol policy. What the hell does that mean? Well, actually, under the new version of the policy, beers that partner with teams will be permitted to use images of players when marketing their products. The same will be done with liquor and wine. Teams and players now will be able to share in the profits. So this is another ploy by the NFL, by Roger Goodell, as we get closer to the CBA, to kind of maybe lighten the load here and kind of already start negotiations favorably for the NFL.
And this is something we talked about before, about profit sharing. Now they're finally to bring it in and actually getting sponsor money to help out, pay for it too as well. So that's brilliant.
And you know,
there you go.
It's just another way to make money for the league as well as the teams and players, because I know
That's what we said.
myself.
The NBA does it.
If I see like a beer bottle, beer can, or something like that, it's almost like a souvenir. You want to just buy it because it's your team and it has a certain player on there, so they could end up being collectibles as well.
Hey, if people didn't want to pay or keep paying, $8 and $10 for a beer at a
Now it's worth it.
at an arena, they they're still going to do it. They always do it. So there it is. So now players can join in on that and spill one for themselves. There you go.
The Jacksonville Jaguars have signed free agent wide receiver Terrell Pryor to a reported one-year contract. Terrell Pryor, we kind of wondered what happened with him because he started his career off as a wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. He left when I forgot what the next team was, but and then he kind of disappeared.
His career as a wide receiver,
So now he resurfaces in Jacksonville, which they already have a very young receiving core. I think now they wanted to add a little bit younger.
And see what he's got.
A veteran
Why not?
presence there. So who knows? Maybe
I
he
like
could
what the
make the
Raiders did.
team. Could possibly make it. Cam Newton has started throwing again, everybody, after having shoulder surgery in January. This is something that was a little bit of a concern for Panther fans, for the organization. There was reports coming out of Carolina where they actually weren't sure if he was going to even throw this season. They were even contemplating that he might just miss the year. So this is great news for the Carolina Panthers and company. He's already started throwing, so I think he's going to be ready now for training camp. So
he's got time.
Yeah, definitely. Chicago Bears have added depth along the offensive line with the signing of offensive tackle TJ Clemmings. This is kind of like a guy who he got drafted fairly high in the draft, and he's kind of bounced around a couple of teams and hasn't really stuck anywhere. But this is a good depth signing for the Chicago Bears, who really already have their starting offensive line, but this guy, maybe they could develop him to being a future starter. The Green Bay Packers head coach Matt LaFleur suffered a torn ACL. That's right, man down, head coach on the IR, the whole shebang. This past Wednesday while playing basketball, nonetheless. We talked about basketball for, adding 2 extra games. Well, the NBA has 80 games, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what happened? See, now even your head coaches playing basketball are getting already hurt by, these games.
Yeah, figures, right?
According to the NFL.com's Michael Silver, LaFleur will undergo surgery and plans to coach from none other than a cart during OTAs.
Look at that. John Daly gets a cart, now Matt LaFleur gets a cart.
That's right. So here's the interesting thing
how
is
they're going to do that.
Coaching football from a cart. That's very difficult. I mean, all you can do is shout and yell at people. That's
They
really
got to
pretty
give him
much
the
it.
booger mobile. I want to see him in the booger mobile. He gets to
Definitely.
elevate up, see every view. I mean, then maybe you'll see coaches always. I want the booger mobile too. I can see every angle of the thing.
That might be
Help
frowned
me out.
upon because who knows, he might pull another ACL tear while he's up there. Joe Horrigan, the Pro Football Hall of Fame's executive director of 42 years, has now officially called it quits and is going to retire as of June 1st. The historian of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, a guy that has kind of climbed up the ladder. You know, he once started as kind of like the caretaker of the facilities when the Pro Football Hall of Fame was just kind of in the beginning stages of becoming what we know now. And he's kind of climbed up the ladder. He was a long-time employee for 42 years, took care of a lot of the footballs and stuff. He made trips. He got Peyton Manning's touchdown football from breaking the record in NFL history, the most touchdowns. And he would travel out there, grab the football, bring it back to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, get it ready to be in the enclosure and case and on display. So Joe Horrigan, congratulations on a very successful career with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and you will be missed, sir. Ravens signed third-round outside linebacker Jalen Ferguson. One of the draft picks from this previous draft ends up getting signed and is now ready to go. Members of the New England Patriots have received their Super Bowl rings, everybody. I know everybody across the NFL is so excited for the Patriots. You know, they got another ring during a private ceremony this past Thursday, according to ESPN.com's Mike Reese. But we're just going to move on from that. The Football Hall of Famer, ex-Patriot tight end Rob Gronkowski spoke to reporters Sunday and said any talks of him coming out of retirement can be put to rest. He's tired of hearing it. He's like, no, I'm not coming back to football. I am done with football. I am here for the New England community. He's still doing fundraisers and helping out here and there. But on the flip side of it, the Patriots organization had something to say about that, and they said, "Oh no, if we call Rob Gronkowski, he's coming back. You know, if we call him right now, if Tom Brady calls Rob Gronkowski, he's definitely coming back because we'll need him." Well, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
But maybe not.
We'll see.
Rob Gronkowski says otherwise.
There you go.
NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell believes it's not necessary for each team to have 4 preseason games. We did talk about this earlier in the show. In case you missed it, doesn't think it's necessary for the 4 preseason games, according to John Warrow of the Associated Press. And this goes hand in hand with Goodell having conversations with various teams, coaches, assistants, and saying that they don't really need the 4 preseason games to evaluate the roster. They think that they could do it with less, and in turn might save on injuries, might save on having a healthier roster going into the regular season. Carolina Panthers have signed veteran D-tackle Gerald McCoy. Yes, the Carolina Panthers have won the sweepstakes for McCoy from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Pro Bowl D-tackle, now is a little older. He's about 31 years old. They signed him to a one-year deal worth $8 million with incentives that could reach $10.25 million per Ian Rappaport.
Excited.
Very excited. He claimed it. You know, he's back home. It's his hometown. You know, around his hometown. Very excited to be there. He wanted to stay in the South. So even though there was teams north like the Ravens, the Cleveland Browns that were very interested as well. Can you just imagine that though too? Like Gerald McCoy playing with Myles Garrett and
I know, right?
Other players. I mean, it's insane. But he chose to stay South. He didn't want to move too far away from the South. Ended up choosing Panthers, and there you go. I think it's a crowded D-tackle position, though, for this team. You look at Kawan Short, who's a Pro Bowl-esque D-tackle. Also, they signed Dontari Poe this past free agency.
I know. I mean, so how's that going to work in there?
Yeah, like, is McCoy now a starter, and Poe is kind of taken out and going to be a rotational piece? Like, this is confusing to me. I really don't get it. But we'll just have to wait and see. Slot receiver Adam Humphries signed with the Tennessee Titans this offseason, but not before the New England Patriots came calling. But Humphries chose the Titans, however, because he was uncertain about how much longer Patriots quarterback Tom Brady would play when he spoke with Travis Haney of The Athletic. Interesting take by Adam Humphries is, now let's think about this. Tom Brady is going to turn 42 years old. by the time the 2019 season is here. And we all know that Tom Brady has made the statements before the past couple of years. I want to play till I'm 45. I want to play late 40s, whatever the case may be. What Tom Brady really wants, he wants to kind of break every single record there is in the NFL history. And I think he's going to have a hard time to do that, along with Drew Brees, who's already broken many of them as well, and
Some
is
of his
still
own.
going.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, Humphries made a career decision. He wanted to go with a younger, up-and-coming team versus playing with one of the great quarterbacks in Tom Brady. Wide receiver Jordy Nelson signed a one-day contract with the Green Bay Packers to also call it quits and retire with the team. So there we have an official statement from Jordy Nelson saying that he's done. You know, he ended up getting cut by the Raiders this past year and said, well, you know what? I've had a good run. Could be. Could be for Jordy. Jordy now gets to relax while OTAs and training camps continue.
It could be.
Detroit Lions D-tackle Damon Harrison, Jim mentioned it earlier in the show, will skip the team's mandatory minicamp as he seeks a new contract, according to Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio and NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. This is troubling because this is mandatory minicamp.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be there. Now what's going to happen is, okay, you want to hold out? That's great. Guess what? It doesn't work out for players when they do this either because now the team has the ability to fine him every day he misses the mini camps.
Right.
So you're losing money right now. And if you think holding out is going to be the answer, you got another thing coming.
Right, and like you said, he's got a decent contract already. Like, what else do you want, bro? Like, do you really want to test this water here? Because I don't know, man.
Because, face it, age is creeping up on him. He's a little bit older.
Like, the Giants get rid of him for a reason. I mean,
right. I mean, could this possibly mean, too, that maybe Detroit maybe look to trade him? You know, if he's going to become too much of a problem where he's just absolutely not going to play for this team, then you got to look at maybe a trade partner possibly. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see how that all shakes out. According to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, offensive tackle Trent Williams was absent because he is in search of a new contract as well. Trent Williams has 2 years remaining on his deal. $24 million remaining on the 5-year deal that he once signed. $68 million deal he signed in 2015. Why? You're getting paid well. You're paid as a starting left tackle. Why kind of rock the ship now when, you have a new quarterback coming in? You're getting a lot of those players healthy again on the offensive line and defenses and that sort of thing. And you have young weapons to throw to now. So they need you there. Yeah. You got to be there for these guys. So we'll
see. That's our next group of guys. Again, that's holding out. We'll see what happens with them. And it's funny. It's not like a big, like they're stars, but like not major. Like they're offensive linemen, defensive linemen. Darius Slay.
I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, Trent Williams is a great left tackle.
I hear you're there, but I mean,
and especially for this organization,
interesting to see where it's going to go.
It's not going to go anywhere where Trent Williams wants to go. So let's say that. Cleveland Browns running back Duke Johnson Jr. said Tuesday at mandatory veteran, I don't know why they put veteran minicamp, but that he still wants to be traded. Despite all the additions that the Browns have made, all the upgrades that they've made, he still wants to be traded, according to Cleveland.com's Mary Kay Cabot. Johnson added that he feels, quote, unquote, unwanted in Cleveland. What? What do you mean you feel unwanted?
Well, yeah, he sees how Nick Chubb's playing, but then also they get Kareem Hunt. But Kareem Hunt was a value pick. I guess if he can have an opportunity to hit the field, he can play, I guess. But, I mean,
he's not there yet.
Yeah, not there yet. I mean, what's your deal? I mean, you're still going to be involved in the offense. What's your problem, dude?
And that's the thing is he's going to be suspended for 8 games. So he's already missing half the season.
Yeah, I know.
And
it's like what?
They're gonna need you there, Duke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and they're gonna. And here's the thing: is Duke Johnson? They utilize him more as a receiver than they do a running back. So he's going to be involved. He's going to be an X factor type of piece for this offense. You're going to look at all the major improvements that they made. They bring in Odell Beckham Jr. Now, can they manage his ego and attitude? And they also have Jarvis Landry. They got David Njoku at tight end, who kind of lit it up last year. Yep. Baker Mayfield, his second year. He is going to be a dangerous man. especially with all these pieces that they have. So why would you want to leave this up-and-coming team right now? I just don't understand.
Egos, like you said.
Yeah. And it's funny because Baker Mayfield called out Duke Johnson Jr. after all this. They're like, oh, well, it's self-inflicted. It's all on him. I just want him, when he's on this field, he better perform. So
There you go.
he's spoken like a veteran already, a leader on this team, and demands results.
Here we go.
Straighten
We'll
up,
see.
Duke.
Yep.
Ex-Cardinals quarterback Carson Palmer will be enshrined in the Arizona Cardinals Ring of Honor. Something a little bit of a surprise. If you wanted to check this out, if you're a Cardinals fan, if you're just an NFL fan, go ahead and check out our group. Scroll down a little bit, and there's a video that goes along with this where Carson Palmer FaceTimes with one of the front office personnel, and that's how this whole thing occurred.
Oh, really?
They FaceTimed each other and said, "Hey, Carson, how you doing?" Da-da, back and forth a little bit. And they're like, "Hey, how would you accept the invitation to be part of the Ring of Honor for the Arizona Cardinals?" Carson's like, "Wow, really? Oh, really? I'm being. Oh, that's awesome. At least some team recognizes."
Yeah, I
that
know. You would
played
think
well.
that the Bengals would have been knocking, but I guess the Bengals are just dirty like that too. There's like you don't care. Like who's their Ring of Honor even? Who do they even have in there?
Corey Dillon.
Boomer Esiason. I'm like, who's there? I'm like, I don't get it. What's up with that?
According to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, the LA Rams running back Todd Gurley's role may be lessened coming into 2019, moving forward because of a looming concerns about his left knee. We already discussed this briefly beforehand. The Rams intend to lighten his load and work the likes of rookie third-round pick Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown, Justin Davis, and none other than John Kelly. A little bit long of a list, so I wonder who's going to stay and make this roster as well, too. Someone's getting cut. Ex-linebacker Navarro Bowman retires from the NFL as a member of the San Francisco 49ers. Navarro Bowman, I mean, one of the most lethal linebackers. I mean, a guy that could cover well, a guy that could deliver punishing blows.
Yeah, absolutely.
And great person, too. I mean, he was just amazing. Just simply amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom Brady tweeted today,
Oh, Jesus.
get this, everyone. I know New England Patriots fans were freaking out on Twitter about this. He tweeted from a song that Jay-Z wrote, treat my first like my last and my last like my first. And that was it. That was the comment he put on Twitter, which has Patriots fans going nuts. And the Patriots fans were at Tom Brady asking him, dude, what does this mean? Like, what's going on? Like, are you retiring this year after this season? What's happening? I don't know. Relax, everybody. He might be just playing mind games with y'all right now. So, I mean, don't know. Is it encrypted? Could be. Why would he just put it on Twitter like that? To leave it up to everybody's own observations.
Could be.
It is.
I don't know. You
And
never know with him.
It's like, how do you read these things? Because he's done things like this before.
Yeah.
I know. I remember him
he's,
doing a video previous to before 2018 season where he was kind of like taking a video. I don't know who was taking the video, actually. Someone had to be taking it. I think he was holding it, actually, and saying, oh, well, today's a beautiful day out here. You see his house in the background.
Yeah.
He's got his Maserati over here.
Yeah.
He's like, it's a nice day. He goes, you know what? Man, he goes, it feels so nice. He goes, maybe I don't feel like going to training camp. Maybe I should just retire right now. I can live it up right here. He just kind of played off the whole scenario, and then everybody
He
lost
likes
their
to
minds
troll
then.
everybody. Yeah. He thinks it's
everybody
funny.
lost their minds then, and then
Yeah,
what
that's
happened?
what
He just
he
played and
That's what
won
he
another
does.
Super Bowl.
He performs. So we'll see him there.
Patriots surprisingly have released tight end Austin Seferian Jenkins, who they just recently signed. Guy that's out there, and then when you look at their roster, it's like,
Yeah, who's playing? I looked at the roster.
who's
I'm like,
going to
okay.
be the starting tight end right now? Does this mean? I mean, just saying. I mean, did they move on from him? And the whole speculation is Rob Gronkowski going to come back or not? Could this be
They said
something
personal
where
issues too. I mean, did they ever come out what the personal issue is with them?
There's no details about
I wonder
what has
it
happened.
is.
However, what I did happen to hear is that Austin Seferian Jenkins showing up late.
Oh,
But
we'll see.
I mean,
hey,
I know the organization does not play games.
No.
And if you show up late,
Malcolm
for things
Butler did things like
and
that.
don't take it
didn't play the
serious
Super Bowl.
enough for them, they're just going to move on from you
Yeah.
or get rid of you.
Yeah.
So if that's the sole reason, I mean, I think it's just way too early. Find the guy, maybe bench him for whatever the case may be. But wow, just flat out cut him. Maybe he came in overweight, and maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, he does look a little chubbier.
That was an issue with him coming out of college. People said that he fluctuated in weight too much. The Jets even said that much when he played for them.
Yep.
So maybe that played a part as well. So we'll have to wait until we get further details on that. The Saints announced their Hall of Fame inductees for 2019. The running back Reggie Bush and receiver Marquise Colston. A lot of you remember those two. They were like phenomenal for this Saints offense, and they were very hard to contain. They are the inductees for this year for the New Orleans Saints in their Hall of Fame, Ring of Honor, whatever you wish to call it. And then also we have left tackle Trent Williams wants out. We've heard this already before, but there's more news about it. He wants out of Washington over a medical situation, apparently. Not only has been reported without exactly what happened, but Williams is apparently not satisfied that he got adequate medical care from the team. We know that he's had his fair share of banged-up injuries and so forth, but he's not happy with the medical attention he received in Washington, and if that's your reason why you want out, I'm a little confused. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they are doing their part with the NFL 100 celebration. Was celebrating the NFL's 100th season by hosting a Feeding Children Everywhere event at their UPMC Rooney Sports Complex facility. So there's a little positivity in the NFL.
There you go.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are doing, and this goes on throughout the NFL. There's teams, there's individual players that do all these different fundraisers, and we try to find out as much as we can when they do happen. But there you go. Kudos to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
There you go.
And there you have it, everybody. The drop is done.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
I told you it was going to be a long one.
Dude, that was brutal.
Shoot yourself.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I like the news and stuff, but, I mean, holy moly. But there was a lot to take in, but a lot of positive stuff and some Patriots and Tom Brady news. So everybody, who doesn't love that, So we love Tom Brady, don't we, Joe? All right. Here we go. Thanks again, everybody, joining us tonight. We appreciate it via Twitter and Periscope, YouTube, and also our Facebook group. I shared it to a bunch of other groups out there, everybody from NFL Talk, all 32. NFL News and Updates, I think it's called. Yeah, I appreciate everybody joining in. I'm trying to get to people's comments from those other groups that I share. Unfortunately, it doesn't come up, I think, from Restream, so forgive me if I don't see any of your comments. If you would try and just click my personal video, if you get that might help to post a comment if you guys want to comment about some of the stuff. Earlier on, we covered...
Also, just to review real quick, our top 10 projected running backs for 2019 went as follows. Number 10, Alvin Kamara. Number 9, Marlon Mack. Number 8, Derrick Henry.
Here we go.
Number 7, Devontae Freeman. Number 6, Joe Mixon. Number 4, Melvin Gordon. Number 3, Christian McCaffrey. Number 2, it has a nice ring to it right there. Number 3, Christian McCaffrey. You saw that?
Yeah.
Number 10, Ezekiel Elliott takes a step down. And number 1, none other than Juggernaut. Awesome player, rookie of the year, could be MVP this year, Saquon Barkley.
Yes, there you go. That was our top projected running backs of 2019. So we'll see where that goes. Some backlash a little bit from Le'Veon not being on there, but then again, we explained ourselves there. So
it's fine.
And if you don't agree, if you even have your own list, what you think, go ahead, post them up there. We love to see it, and you could probably sway us to some other here and there because there was plenty of players that we left off this list that we both liked and just kind of came to an agreement on some of them. So that's what you do. You compromise.
Yeah.
That's what you do, Joe, right?
It's like a good marriage. You have to compromise once in a while.
Yeah, that's what you try and do. Mike Tackett's in. Here we go. Back again, Mike Tackett. For what it's worth, don't forget that Austin Severian-Jenkins had attended multiple practices in Tampa Bay and New York drunk.
That's right.
I can't help but to wonder if he had a relapse. Hopefully he finds peace with his struggles. There you go. Yes.
That's true.
Absolutely. You never know. Yeah. That's why I think it's
well done, Mike.
Personal. Again, I mean, it could be some of those issues. That's why maybe it's not coming out so much. Who knows?
And we'll find out, and this happens all the time. You see a player get cut or a player gets moved from, and later on, it might take a while. It might be next season. It could be, in the middle of this regular season, when we find out the finer details of what really happened upon his release.
There you go. So we're going to move on to our next segment.
We've
been doing it every week, but this week we're moving on to the AFC West's biggest questions. There there. He goes, all right. Yeah, all right.
Nice
So
sound effects,
yeah,
bro.
you like that? With my cracky voice. So every week for the last couple of weeks, we've been doing the biggest questions that we have for each division. We've done the AFC East, the AFC South, and now we're on to the AFC West. Well, one of the favorite divisions we like to talk about, especially because a lot of our members are fans of Raiders, the Broncos and Chiefs and things like that. So here we go. We're going to list off some of the biggest questions that we have about these teams, coming up in the next season. So let's start off here first with the Denver Broncos. And the question I have, or that we have for this whole thing for the Broncos, is will we see Drew Lock this season? I mean, Joe Flacco here, he's dealing with this once again.
Yep.
Last year.
Poor Joe.
Yeah, he went 4 for 5. He had 12 touchdowns and 6 INTs. And after losing 3 straight games and then having a bye week, Baltimore goes to make the switch and goes to Lamar Jackson and doesn't turn back. And then they start winning consecutive games, make it to the playoffs. And now the rest is history. Joe's out. And now, again, he's here on goal. I get to be a starter now for the Denver Broncos.
That's right.
Here we go. And wouldn't you know it, in the second round, the 10th in the second round, they picked Drew Lock now. And right now he's improving daily in practice. They're saying at first when he showed up, he was a bit rusty. He's still learning the playbook. But coaches speak very highly of him. And, he's just keeping up with the system, learning it, and the players are impressed about how he's taking it. And they said it's just a process we're going through.
Yeah,
right now we're sticking with Joe and see how it goes.
It's funny because the same exact things were said about Paxton Lynch when he arrived. He's a little rusty, but he's improving. The team, it looks like we might have something here, and no. So words are words. That's what I'm going to say. It's great.
That is true.
It's great to hear positivity about Drew Lock and everything, but I think a lot of teams do speak highly, especially of a high draft pick that is in camp, who's doing well. Maybe he's not where they would like him to be, because I think that's where I'm kind of reading in between the lines here, but he's got a lot of developing to do. Drew Lock, he's had success in college football. He's a very mobile guy. Has a strong arm, but very mobile. At times, he is a little accuracy challenged, I would say, but maybe that goes along with coaching and maybe working on his footwork and so forth. So it will have to remain to be seen. As of right now, too, it's really funny that Joe Flacco, when they drafted Drew Lock, Flacco's response was much like it was when Lamar Jackson was in Baltimore Ravens. It was simply like, well, I'm here to win football games. I'm not here to tutor anybody. I'm the starter, and that's what it is. So it's interesting to see that. And Joe Flacco still has not changed his mind about tutoring anybody. He's there to win games. He is the starting quarterback. At least that's what he believes going forward. Will we see Drew Lock? I think depending on if Flacco struggles heavily or injury. Because it's a different offense, and we'll have to wait and see how well Flacco acclimates to this. Drew Lock, I think, has a little bit more of a development that he has to go through in order to take over the starting job, but that's why they got Flacco. It was more of an insurance policy. And John Elway, who's come under a lot of flack for still, as long as his tenure has been as the GM for the Denver Broncos, has still been very unsuccessful in finding the future quarterback for this franchise. And I think that pressured him into taking a guy like Drew Lock. I don't know if he really wanted him. I know every GM comes on in public and says, this is our guy. This is who we wanted the whole time. This is it. This is what it just went to plan. Well, I don't think the draft goes like that every single year. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But Flacco, I think he's going to end up being the starter. And I think, based on if he gets outplayed by Lock, a little twist on words there, remains to be seen. I think Flacco comes in as that veteran presence. He's one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. So that's one thing he has going for him. And there's got to be the receivers, the young receivers. You got Emmanuel Sanders coming back healthy. He's got to step his game up along with all these other guys coming back for another year. So I really do believe I don't think Lock is going to get in there this year. I think that depending on injury, obviously, or Flacco just playing just can't play in this offense.
Right.
I think that's the only time where you might see a switch, but I think Flacco's going to be the guy.
Right. I think this was a great insurance policy here, and maybe one of the better moves by John Elway, too, to help save his job, possibly.
Hey, Case
and
Keenum.
maybe his legacy here.
I'm just saying.
They do draft Dalton Reisner here for the at the right guard position. Like you said, now Courtland Sutton there, he's the starting wide receiver here. He looked really good last year. He's only going to continue this year, so he's got a weapon to throw in there. Emmanuel Sanders comes back, and they drafted Noah Fant, too, which is one of the better tight ends in the draft here, maybe the best. So he's got weapons to throw to too. So I mean, it's good for whatever quarterback's in there to dish it to some guys here. So like you said, if it is Drew Lock, he's taking it just steady and soaking it up a little bit and out to learn and taking it upon himself to do it. We'll see where it leads us. But right now, Joe Flacco, I think he will stay there probably a whole year. I think John Elway is going to try and play it safe and do it. Probably the right way.
And that's
let
what
the guy
Elway
go,
does.
And then next,
that's what Elway does
bring him
every
on,
year.
so.
Is play it safe.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean, sometimes
he's gonna try and do it.
Sometimes, or actually, almost every single time he plays it safe, it doesn't work out.
Well, he doing too safe, I guess, with Paxton Lynch to let him not even see the field. He's like, you can't tell if he's bad. He's never played here.
And,
All right.
and the whole thing with Noah Fant, I mean, huge problem for defenses that they're going to have to play against him. Very fast guy. He's more like a receiver, much like what Evan Ingram was coming out of college. Everyone saw him as more of a slot receiver, but he has the body to play tight end. Noah Fant is in that kind of same mold there, very similar mold, where he's going to be very hard to stay with, is more of a big-bodied receiver that can make plays. So that is a big boost to whoever's going to be at quarterback, Joe Flacco or Drew Lock. So definitely see him being heavily utilized. But other than that, I mean, after Courtland Sutton, after Emmanuel Sanders, there's not a whole lot of, so if Sanders happens to get hurt again, I think this is greatly going to hurt them. They're going to have to really heavily lean on the young rookie at tight end. And Jeff Howerman, who also is still a young guy on there, probably been there for 2 years. And then on top of that, Philip Lindsay. Lindsay, who made it his own name for himself last year before he got injured. He was starting to play, he was playing great for them out of the backfield. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see how that team lays out here. Now, looking at the defense here. Now, question I have here about the defense is, can the defense get back to top 10 for them? Because, they drafted Bradley Chubb now there, where they saw him and Von Miller. Now, this could be dangerous. But, again, they let some of their corners go because they thought something in the younger guys, wanted to bump them up to starting positions, and never really recovered from that whole deal. Chris Harris is there by himself, even feels disrespected by letting those guys go and says, what are you doing?
Yeah.
To where he even complains and says, listen, I want another deal here. They end up signing him to a 1-year deal worth $12.05 million here, where they gave him, I think it was like $1.65 million, and in a guaranteed money. But so now, besides some of the other little depth pieces they got, they didn't really do a whole lot on defense now. So it's tough to see that defense get back to where they were. They're kind of, to me, maybe could be wasting what they have in Bradley Chubb and Von Miller a bit.
Hey, here's the thing: is Bradley Chubb was so highly hyped coming into that draft that he was so dominant in college and everything. But then what you notice is he is a good pass rusher. Don't get me wrong; he is really good. But I don't think he was, and this is my own fault too. I thought he was a top 5 pick. Now, after watching him in the NFL at that level, he's not a top 5 pick. I'm greatly disappointed with Bradley Chubb. Even though he had a successful season, I think that he should be doing a lot more, especially when you got Von Miller on the other side. That takes a lot of attention away from
possibly,
you.
Yeah, killing the double teams.
And then when you talk about the secondary, I mean, wow. I mean, when you sign free agent Kareem Jackson, who was injury-plagued in Houston, a guy that when he did get an opportunity played okay at times, and then you have Chris Harris, who you just gave him a raise, a guy that gets injured almost every single season. A guy that, don't get me wrong, is he a really good corner? Absolutely, he's a really good corner. But a guy that's injury-plagued almost every single season, ends up missing some kind of time, and you gave him a raise? Wow. I think that's a bad GM decision there on John's part. And when you look at they do have young safeties, but other than that, I question the secondary still. Bradley Roby moved on. He left in free agency. And quite honestly, I think this defense, which was like kind of on the lower tier end of defenses in the league, I think they're going to stay down there. I don't think they're going to improve very much at all. I think their secondary, nonetheless, is weaker than it was the last previous year, and I think it's going to hurt them in the long run. I think they're going to have a hard time stopping teams that do have the weapons that can throw the ball well, and they may be able to stuff the run. But I think they're going to still struggle. And what used to be the no-fly zone 2 years ago is now all access. Everyone come over.
There you go.
So
that's the Denver Broncos, the questions we have for them. Moving on now to the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, people are calling him future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes and all this.
Already.
And we got fired 50
1
touchdowns
year.
last year, though.
1 year.
50 touchdowns. I mean, that's crazy. Gets the MVP in his first season as a starter. So can Patrick Mahomes repeat his performance with or without Tyreek Hill now? Now, the team said it would make the right choice at the right time with Tyreek Hill here. Remember now, in 2015, Hill was sentenced to 3 years probation for choking and punching his fiancée. But then even recently, back in April, an audio tape was released about, the damaging his son. His son had a broken arm or he was injured, and it came out that his son maybe pointed him out and said, Daddy did it, and then him threatening his fiancée and said, listen, you see what I can do to you too, and blah, blah, blah.
Not
Big
so
mess.
nice, though.
Yeah,
it was way worse than that.
yeah. And so you have that, so where he hasn't been suspended or anything yet. That's just because the case was closed. They reopened it after that audio thing, and now they're open still cases going on, investigations still gathering more information. Once I think something clears up with that, then the NFL will step in and see if he does see any kind of time off there.
You can't. I'm sorry. You just can't. Now that you have audio evidence, you have a bad history of this happening over and over, of abuse.
Yeah, you got domestic violence, not only with a woman, but also now a child.
Mind you, that audio was sent from his fiance to her friend and said, if anything happens to me, release it. And when she got in that confrontation and everything, she texted her friend or whatever and said, go ahead, give it to the news channel. And then this whole thing exploded. So now we actually are starting to get concrete evidence against Tyreek Hill in this whole situation that's kind of blown up right now. And I'm sorry, but if you're the NFL, you basically shut down Ray Rice's career for punching a lady with video evidence. You went really light, to be honest, on Kareem Hunt. I don't think he's another guy that, even though he's very young, he's another guy that I don't think he learned his lesson. We saw his interview. I forgot what news. It might have been 60 Minutes, whatever. We saw his interview, and after me personally watching that interview, there was no emotion from him.
He just went
He
through
was
the
very
motions.
stone cold. Said, "Yeah, I feel really sorry, and I wish I never did that." What do you mean you wish you never did that? You don't apologize to the other family. You don't apologize to the victim.
He didn't do any of that.
You don't do any of that.
It sucks. It really wrecked my career.
Yeah. Instead, I feel bad for myself. Can everybody feel bad for me?
Do you forgive me now?
No, that's terrible. So I think he's another guy that just doesn't get it. I don't think he should be even. Right now, he's on Roger Goodell's commissioner exempt list, so he is not allowed to play yet. But he is recently getting released, and he's going to serve an 8-game suspension, which I think is just preposterous. I don't know what kind of cords were pulled by John Dorsey or what kind of magic voodoo that he did, but somehow Kareem Hunt only comes away with an 8-game suspension. I thought it should be at least a year suspension and probably the NFL ban, to be honest. Now you got Tyreek Hill's situation going on. I really don't believe, if you're the NFL that's trying to justify saying we are against domestic violence, we are against all this violence that happens with families and these players, and even crossing paths with fans sometimes, things get heated and stuff happens. So if you're the NFL and you want to take a stand right now, do it. Ban Tyreek Hill. I'm sorry, but if this is you got evidence now. This isn't just word of mouth. This is a recording saying this, that, and the other thing. And I think you got to ban Tyreek Hill. I don't foresee him playing another down. So that right there alone, You take Tyreek Hill away from this offense, and Mahomes, I'm telling you right now, Mahomes relied heavily on Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only was he
I
a
agree with
deadly
that.
weapon,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the fastest guys on the field. So, I mean, you could give him a 2-yard pass, and he turns it into a 50, 60-yard touchdown run. Guy that's very utilized in this offense. They moved him a lot around, on top of having Travis Kelce, on top of having Sammy Watkins, who also got banged up. Now, if you take Tyreek Hill out of that equation, you take Kareem Hunt out of that equation too. Mind you, I do really like Damian Williams.
Yep.
Who's going to be the go-to guy in that backfield now. However, Damian Williams, in my mind, is nowhere near Kareem Hunt. Damian Williams is a good running back, but he's not Kareem Hunt. So that's a downgrade. You take Tyreek Hill also out of there, that's another weapon gone. Now who are you thrown to? Sammy Watkins? Well, maybe if he makes it through half of the season without getting injured, that's another. And if Watkins goes down to injury,
you got
Kelce.
That's what I mean, because in Kelce, you're trying to just shut him down, and
Right.
then you're forced.
So,
Who are you going to go to?
This could
DeMarcus
potentially blow up in
Robinson,
their face.
It's
it could potentially blow
yeah,
up.
and the thing is with being an MVP though too, and trying to equal what he did last year. If you look at his last person to do it, say went back to back. So you're
Right.
saying basically if you're going to do what he did last
For that
year,
kind of production.
that kind of production, go back to back. No one has got like MVP back to back and had that type of production. It's going way back in 2003, 2004 now with Peyton Manning. He was the last one to do it. So that's how far back it is. That's
Yeah.
over 15, 16 years ago.
And mind you, Peyton Manning, in my mind, one of the best ever. One of. You can't really claim a guy best ever, but to me, he was the first quarterback that I've seen from when I started watching football to where he would line up to the line of scrimmage and just look at the defense, study it, like, okay, I got this. We're going to change it. Cupcakes, everybody, cupcakes. Everybody kind of knew what the audible was and everything, and sure enough, he just knew he read defenses so well and would change the play that fits best to attack that defense.
Yep.
So first quarterback that I've ever seen do that, and he did it time and time again.
time again.
It was almost impossible to play defense against him.
Yep, absolutely. And if you look at his stats back then, in 03, he had a 67% completion percentage with 4,267 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 10 INTs. He followed that up now in 2004 with a 67.6 completion percentage, so he got better. And he had 4,557 yards, which was even better. And then he went to, even make it better, 49 touchdowns and still 10 interceptions. So last person to do something like that, Peyton Manning, all-time greats, possibly the greatest of all time. And for Patrick Mahomes to equal that, where he might not have Tyreek Hill, where he's relying a lot on Travis Kelce to get open and be his star guy, and maybe Sammy Watkins staying healthy and be able to make some plays there too, and having Damian Williams back there along with Carlos Hyde to try and do something. I don't know. It's highly unlikely he's going to equal his production that he did, and it might stifle some of the headlines people are hearing or saying about Patrick Mahomes. And not that he's going to be terrible, but we've seen this before. We've seen tremendous rookie seasons or first starting seasons by guys, and then with their play type or whatever they have weapons around them, all of a sudden their career is taken down a step and things like that. So we'll see what happens with him. I don't think he equals, and I'm sure you agree there as well.
Yeah, because
we'll
when
see.
you look
again, a lot of questions.
Here's the thing: is now teams have game film to go off.
That's
of.
true too.
Now they finally have some game film to go off of, and you saw. The couple of games later in the season and even into the playoffs, you saw defenses change the way they played them, and it looked like Patrick Mahomes started to struggle a little bit. So you're going to see teams kind of match that this upcoming year and try to dictate what
Some
Mahomes
of the interceptions he
make him screw up, make him make some mistakes, mental mistakes, and maybe mess up their whole game plan.
Yeah. And now the next question I have for the Kansas City Chiefs for the defense now is, can the interior of the defense make up for those weak corners again? They weren't able to do a whole lot there. You talk about when we were just saying about the Denver Broncos, Noah Fant is a great, awesome weapon for them to have, and with these weak corners in that same division, they can bring him out there and attack them possibly, because again, they what you said, their strength is their offensive line. They've gotten a little better on linebacker here, but I mean, again, that's their only strengths up in there on the defense. So they grabbed Tyrann Mathieu, right? They, back to make up. They don't have Marcus Peters anymore. They don't have Eric, whatchamacallit there anymore. So I mean, it's tough. They're still weak back there for a team that maybe they won't be able to put up as many points. That's the thing with them last year.
Yeah.
High-powered offense, be able to put back points and get back in the game.
Their
maybe they
offense
won't be able
carried
to do it. Yeah. So
Yeah, and you look at the secondary. It is, I mean, in my opinion, it's weak except for Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah,
That's like
yep.
the one go-to that you can say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a little bit of concern for Eric Berry, to remain remain healthy. And as much as Eric Berry has went through, he conquered cancer and still came back and played. But I think now that Eric Berry is getting a little bit older, the Kansas City Chiefs are also worried about him getting more injured possibly. So they decided to make a move here, and they got rid of Eric Berry. They cut him away, and they ended up picking up Tyrann Mathieu to supplant him. Now, mind you, if you're adding Tyrann Mathieu right now, who's still young, who is a Pro Bowl-esque type of player, and a guy that is universal, a guy that can't just play center, but he also can play corner too if you need him to. So that's a nice pickup for them, and it's an upgrade. But other than that, they picked up a guy like Bashawn Breeland, who is a corner who's kind of like a journeyman a little bit. The last 2 years he's jumped teams. So usually when you start to see that trend from a player year to year has jumped to a different team, now he's on his third new team, it's got to be a concern. Right now they have him penciled as a starter. I don't know. Is he going to improve? Is he going to be a good corner for them? I don't know. I think that's a question mark right there. I don't think he's going to be a strength. And then you look at the rest of their corners, it's a lot of young guys that are unproven that I think are going to struggle. And in turn, it's going to be tough for Tyrann Mathieu to help this defense out enough, the secondary out enough, to kind of stop the passing game. This is what the Denver Broncos are going to have to go through too. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are also going to be another one of those defenses where they're going to struggle with teams that pass the ball well. They might do well stopping the run. I mean, when you traded for Frank Clark, you gave him a huge deal. Derek Nottie, who is a very good D tackle, along with Chris Jones, a Pro Bowl D tackle. They do add a veteran pass rusher in Alex Okafor after moving on from Justin Houston. That's interesting, but as well as they also traded for Emmanuel Ogbah from the Cleveland Browns, who was their own version of a pass rusher / run stuffer. That's going to be interesting, a nice rotation there too. So I think their D-line is their strongest as it's ever been. In terms of linebackers, Reggie Ragland, not a good pass protector. He's good at playing rush defense, but that's it. Anthony Hitchens, a guy that every year is getting older, so his career is starting to end. But I think on the back end, that's where this defense is going to really struggle. I don't think teams are going to pass too much deep because Tyrann Mathieu will be back there, a ball hawk of a safety. But I do think they're going to struggle with short to intermediate routes, and that's where I see their biggest weakness.
All right, yeah, there you go. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. Now moving on to the Los Angeles Chargers, and this was a little tough to try and even find some questions to answer because, again, the way this team was, they are pretty solid as it is, and some of the additions they already made in the offseason were nice, and they grabbed a lot of depth pieces here and there, so they're kind of set. The only questions we can kind of think of is, can the Chargers make it past the Patriots now in the playoffs now? A little more success for Phillip Rivers and the Chargers in the playoffs. I thought they had a chance last year. They were the team I picked to go to the Super Bowl, so
right.
I was just a little off. It looked like they had a good set to go against the Patriots, and then they never showed up. I don't know what happened there. Just got just picked apart. Maybe the Patriots again videotaped their whole practice or something. Who knows? Because that was fishy. They knew all their plays. But so now Phillip Rivers is aging again. Thomas Davis, they grab him in there, but he's a bit of an aging linebacker too as well. Brandon Nebane, he's still aging. They draft Jerry Tillery at the D tackle in the first round to solidify that line even right there. So I mean, they still have a good, strong defensive line here. And Derwin James, what a pickup, too. I mean, this dude was lights out last year, and he's just an amazing athlete all over the field, making plays for him. But they've got to try and do this here. Anthony Lynn here, too. What a great season for him to be a coach here, too.
Really good.
And everybody
coach.
talks about Sean McVay. Anthony Lynn coming in there and having this team go as far as they did, with a lot of people never give this team a chance. They're like one of those teams, again, that everybody just overlooks. Like,
we
got this team, we got this team. Yeah, they can make it. And what about the Chargers? Yeah, but they're the
Yeah,
Chargers.
they're the
It's Philip
Chargers.
Rivers, and nobody loves Philip Rivers. And like I
No,
said, it's
everyone
like the
hates
Zeke thing I gotta have. I'm a Giants fan, Eli Manning, and there was that whole thing between Eli didn't want to play the Chargers.
Yeah.
Philip Rivers got drafted by the Giants, trade, yada yada yada. Yeah. I should have a thing here against Philip Rivers, but dude, you cannot deny what he does. He has a funny throw, sure, whatever, but he makes it work, and he always produces. It just cannot get past the Patriots and things, and further on in the playoffs. Than the championship game, and maybe it's got to be coming up soon. Hopefully, this is the time to strike while you still have Philip Rivers, because once he's gone, you got to hit the reset button. Yeah. It will be on
It's going to be a rebuild.
A quarterback. Yeah,
it's definitely going to be a rebuild and a big one at that, because you have some players already on this that are aging.
Yes,
you look at Russell Okung, you look at Mike Pouncey is also another guy. Yeah, he's kind of still young, but he's getting close. And I'm trying to look at one of the. Oh, he's not there anymore.
But you got your Melvin Ingram
No, Melvin Gordon's still young. He's still in his prime. They do have, but Keenan Allen is a guy that for the first year in his career, I believe, maybe second year, he's managed to stay healthy all season. This past season, and was able to show what he can do. He's a phenomenal receiver, one of the best. But, when you got guys like Travis Benjamin who are underutilized in this offense, I think a guy that plays slot with that kind of speed, I think you would want to get him a little bit more involved. Hunter Henry, a huge upgrade at tight end for the Chargers. They were really missing out on him last year, really were depending on him to be there. Unfortunately, they had to go back to, hey, Gates.
Hey,
Antonio Gates, what are you doing?
You haven't lost.
I'm sipping Mai
too
Tais.
much weight, have you?
Would you want to come back and play one more season? Not really, but okay, I guess you're going to pay me.
What you got?
And it kind of looked like that when he played. It's like he wasn't himself.
Yeah,
you could tell that he wasn't all there. And it could have been just a mental thing, but he did his best. He made a few catches, but really wasn't the same guy.
Yep.
But now Hunter Henry, Charger fans got to be super excited about this guy. You could definitely see him being more involved. And I think Philip Rivers is going to be like doing cartwheels, this upcoming season, because he's going to get to throw touchdown passes to Hunter Henry amongst everybody else. But looking at their defense is pretty solid, actually. Yeah. They made some changes at the excuse me. At the linebacking core, and they do have some nice young depth behind some of these guys like Jatavius Brown. They got Kazir White, who's developing, and also Uchenna Nwosu. Very difficult name to say.
Yeah, I know.
sometimes.
Every time we have to slow it down when we say that name.
Uchenna Nwosu. He's a guy he was a second-round pick from the USC, who I thought could develop into a nice starter for someone, and he's kind of taken back a little bit here because of them just signing Thomas Davis. I think that's going to stunt his growth a little bit because Thomas Davis isn't sitting the pine here. And he's more of a stopgap type of linebacker. Do I think Thomas Davis could be potentially a negative, actually, because you have these young upcoming linebackers. Now you're going to stunt their growth to have this guy come in and play right away. Why did the Carolina Panthers move on from Thomas Davis, I question? Usually when you see a team that has a player who's been playing so well for so long for them, and then all of a sudden be like, no, we're good. See you later.
Yeah, to where he's going to go back and sign a one-day contract to retire as a Carolina Panther.
Right, so, that's kind of up in the air. Now, he was debating, like you were saying, he's debating on retirement or still playing another year, and LA Chargers came calling, and they said, hey, want to play for us? Okay. Yeah, sure. So, that's a little bit of a questionable move for me. And then beyond that, you look at the corners, and Casey Hayward, which is a great corner, one of the best in the league, who kind of goes undervalued here. They do have Desmond King, who kind of played safety for them at times last season. I wonder if they're going to make a move here with Desmond King and kind of make him the other corner on the other side, because it's a very weak position over there. I definitely think that they should try that out. He's a guy that is also a universal piece that they can move at safety to corner. I think they'd be smart to move him to corner to be opposite Casey Hayward. I think that would make this defense a lot more stronger for them this upcoming year. But going back to can they beat the Patriots, I think the reason why they got completely overwhelmed against New England is because of coaching. I think when you go up against Bill Belichick, you better have your T's crossed and your I's dotted, because he's coming with a great game plan to take care of not only your best weapon, because that's usually what they do. They take away your best weapon, and then the game plan after that point is basically stopping everything they possibly can outside of that. And they do a phenomenal job at attacking opposing offenses. That's all, folks.
There you go.
I think it's going to be, again, I think if they do meet up with the Patriots yet again in the playoffs, or I don't even know if they meet them in the season, that'd be interesting too to get a kind of a take there. I think they're going to struggle. I think when you have New England Patriots coming in with a even better receiving core, with a lot more weapons at Tom Brady's disposal, I just think it makes all these teams even harder for the Patriots to beat.
And the thing about the Patriots too is they'll even look back at other film that other teams that are similar to them play and how they had a chance to opportunity to beat them. And like I said, they changed it up and ran heavily at times. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, wow, this is what they're doing now? They're running against this team now? Well, they didn't last time, and they had tough struggles. This time, they ran all the way and ran all over them, and stuff like that, and crushed them in a different way. And that's what Belichick does.
Hence the draft pick of Jerry Tillery, who is an absolute monster. I see him being a very big problem for other
So there you go. So we'll see what happens with them. And finally, moving on to the Oakland Raiders now, who had a lot of different moves in the offseason here, had a great draft. The one question we have here now, will we see an improved defense? I guess is the question you have. We're excited. A lot of people are excited about the offense, but will we see an improved defense? That has always been the problem with these guys. They failed to finish above 20th in points allowed per game since 2006. So that's how long they've been struggling here. They get Paul Guenther here from the Bengals. They get a guy, Vontaze Burfict now, where Guenther, I think, feels that he's comfortable with him. He can get the most out of him here on their defense. Brandon Marshall comes in. They get LaMarcus Joyner, which I really like too. They draft Clelin Ferrell, Jonathan Abram, and Trayvon Mullen here too. So is it enough, the puzzle pieces to fit to help out this defense, where Paul Guenther, he has coached defenses, been the D coordinator to where they have been in top 10s and stuff before. So, I mean, he had a great defense there with the Bengals with elite talent there. So will he turn this ship around so that offense that they have here that we expect to maybe be a lot better with Antonio Brown and things like that? Can this defense now stop other teams' offense, especially the ones that are in their division, like the high-flying offense that they had with the Kansas City Chiefs?
Right, and here's the thing, too, is about this defense is as young as it was last year, later as the season progressed, the defense became better. And that's what you want to see as a new defensive coordinator. So 2 years ago, taking on this defense, kind of had to change it and form it to the way he sees it fit. And after now 2 drafts, 2 free agencies, they've made a lot of changes, not only on defense, but also offense. And sometimes a lot of change is not a good thing, but the Raiders believe that they've made, smart, concise decisions with free agency, with the draft, and they had a lot of draft picks this year, which helped them even more. But they have a very young team. Maurice Hurst, who some people were concerned about his injury coming out of the draft, but he superseded expectations, played amazing until towards the end of the year. He ended up getting hurt. So when you look at all these pieces that they had kind of put in, there's a lot of young talent now. And it's funny because the Raiders went from having one of the oldest rosters last year to now having one of the youngest rosters after an offseason. So they pull off a draft for Clelin Ferrell at defensive end, who a lot of people were kind of down because they picked him so high, but that was their guy. They had him rated right below Nick Bosa. So if they really did believe that this is a guy, I know the Raiders were trying to trade down a few spots and still get Ferrell, but couldn't pull it off. They did a great job of adding young talent via draft and free agency. And also, don't forget about Carl Joseph at safety as well, too. A guy that was playing at a top-notch level last year is now sharing the safety positions with LaMarcus Joyner, with Jonathan Abram, who they just drafted. And it's interesting because they did draft Jonathan Abram, and people are wondering, is that going to push Carl Joseph out? Are they going to trade him away? What are they going to do with him? But LaMarcus Joyner, who they added, interestingly enough,
Yes.
is they're going to move him to slot corner.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be the nickel corner, if you will, for this defense. And Jonathan Abram and Carl Joseph both back there at safety. If Abram pans out as being what was touted as the best safety coming out of the draft, and he's able to acclimate well to the new speed of the NFL, this could be a deadly trio of defensive backs there. You also got to remember, too, is because they added so much depth and changes to this defense, Nevin Lawson, who came from Detroit Lions at corner, they still have Gary Conley, who played very, very well in his second year last year. Going to return for a third season. I think he's going to upgrade even better, but so much young talent to even discuss. There's a lot of changes with this. Do I think the defense is going to be better? Yes. I think now you have not just one offseason, but now this second offseason of going through the defense, which a lot of people claim that it's a complex defense to learn. So it needs 2 to 3 years to really kind of nail down all the nuances of it. And I think with Vontaze Burfict there, who knows it like the back of his hand, is going to help these young guys develop more knowledge than they had in the previous year, especially to help these rookies out. So, yeah, I think the defense is going to be improved. How much? I don't know. It's hard to say because they do have a lot of moving pieces with the defense as well that it depends on how much information we get obtained by these new guys.
And unlike what Joe Flacco said, LaMarcus Joyner said he's more than happy to mentor these younger guys and help them out with that too, and be a mentor for them and this defense. So let's hope they can. It can only go up, I think, here from being finished not above 20th in 16 years or so. So here we go. Now the last question we have here for the Oakland Raiders now, with the additions on offense, can they make a push now for the division? I mean, the way this possibly Tyreek Hill might not be there. You got Joe Flacco in there, for Denver, but again, their defense, they didn't do a whole lot on the back end. The back end of besides Tyrann Mathieu for the Chiefs is struggling. The one tough team too is the Los Angeles Chargers. You can't back them out. So with the additions that they made, though, it's exciting to look at. They've got Trent Brown they add there on the line. They have Antonio Brown, who's looking good in practice. Whoever denied that he might. Tyrell Williams here from the Chargers here, so he's familiar with that type of team there. So when they face them, Josh Jacobs, a first-round pick that they grabbed there, all-around back. So it's really exciting to see what they could do now. Maybe we get to see what John Gruden's offense is all about here. Derek Carr, another season into it. Maybe he can limit some of those mental mistakes that he had, mental errors. He has more trust, which I think he didn't have a little bit last year of. He can trust in Antonio Brown that he could get open and be there. He's not just going to say, well, nobody's open, spike the ball or throw it away. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing? Dump it off. And so I think this is a better looking offense for them. Not a lot of crazy. Antonio Brown is the oldest one there, but he's still playing at a high level. It wasn't like when he had whatchamacallit there, Jordy Nelson and stuff like that. Say, well, does he still have something in the tank? Antonio Brown is still to show that he can be an elite wide receiver. So, so what do you think of down here? Do you think they can make a push for the division now, or at least they got to be better than what they were? They finished last year. So,
and that's what I think is got to be a little concerning for the division rivals in this division is that Derek Carr, he, as much as people point out like, oh, well, he dumped it off a lot and everything else, he actually outperformed John Gruden's expectations. Being the first year under that offense, to relearn a completely new offense in a short amount of time and to be able to command it like he did, I think that with really no weapons. I mean, that was the biggest thing for Derek Carr last year is he didn't have weapons like he does now. Now he has a plethora of wide receivers to throw to. Apparently they have an up-and-coming tight end in Darren Waller, who they really, really do like. They chose to move on from Jared Cook because of Darren Waller, actually. They wanted to further develop Waller, and they really, truly believe in that. So that is another kind of question mark that no one really knows but the Raiders. But overall, this offense not only just got better, but now you put weapons around Derek Carr, it's going to make him even deadlier. I think now that he's going to have a second year in this offense to really kind of nail it down with these new talented receivers like Tyrell Williams, who comes over from the Chargers and quite honestly was one of the best receivers, especially for the deep ball. In the league, he was best at catching deep ball routes. So this offense looks dangerous on paper. Do I think they can? Do I think this team can compete for the division? Absolutely, because I think it's any given Sunday. It's that kind of mentality. Everybody across the league is saying we could win the division this year. You know, despite whatever team it might be. The Dolphins, for crying out loud, are probably saying we can win the division.
Yeah,
and,
why not?
You know what I mean? So you got to have that mentality, and I think they do. I think now that they have all these weapons, these toys that John Gruden likes to play with, I think he's going to have a great. I want to say great season. I think he's going to have a much improved season now that he has more weapons to throw to. So yeah, I do believe that they can compete for the division. However, I don't think they're going to win the division. I think that they might still end up being somewhere in the middle of the pack. I think they're another year, another offseason away to really start to make a push up the ladder. But we'll see.
All right, there you go. There's our biggest questions here for the AFC West. Next week we'll cover the AFC North, and we'll be all set with the AFC, Joe.
So the AFC conference will be complete.
Yeah, then we'll go down to the NFC. Some interesting things there. One interesting thing, too, also, you talk about John Gruden and his offense. Rich Gannon made the NFL MVP one season under John Gruden's offense. So, I mean, that's
another
interesting.
Really funny thing is
bring it on.
For the people that do remember him, Richie Incognito is
yeah.
now a member of the offensive line for the Raiders.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's a little mentally unstable, to say the least, when he was with the Buffalo Bills. And kind of had a falling out there in Buffalo. A guy that he does struggle with mental illness, and it's, publicly known. That was a major concern upon working him out. And then he said, well, he's still in great shape. He plays like he's younger than what he is. He is 36 years old now. This is not a long-term signing, and there's no guarantee he makes the team.
Yeah.
But he's still going. He still wants to play. He came back, and he told. Apparently, he told the GM Mike Mayock that they had a closed meeting inside his office, and Richie Incognito stated from what he needed from the Raiders. In terms of his mental, he wants to better himself. He wants to improve. His stature as a person and as a player, and what he needed for the Raiders to make him so. So I think they had a great conversation. We'll wait and see, even if he makes a roster. But, I always root for people to try to better themselves, and I hope Richie Incognito can turn the corner, even though it's late in his career and pretty much done.
Yep, so there you go. That's our biggest questions for the AFC West that we had. Earlier on, we did our 2019 top 10 projected running backs.
That's it.
So if you guys, in case you're chiming in now and you missed it, just go back and check out the video or scroll right down through it. We did that, and also we did the fact of the day, which was pretty interesting, too, about the merger.
Yeah. Those are always cool.
A lot of other things
like
covered. So we appreciate you guys joining us tonight on Twitter and on YouTube and on Facebook. All the other groups that we shared too, we appreciate you chiming in, liking the video. I saw a few likes on there too as well. We appreciate that, and keep inviting more friends to our group, to the Football on the No Show group.
Just spread the word, everybody.
Absolutely.
If you have friends that enjoy football, like want to talk, want to engage, this is what this show is all about. Go ahead. You could see it just right now through the video. We've talked to Zach Walker as a know-it-all. We've talked to Mike Tackett. We've talked to others. For the ones that have commented in a different section of social media and we haven't gotten your comment, it failed to pass through to get to Restream, which is the software that we use. So we apologize for that, and we look to try to maybe answer those questions later after the show. Also want to thank all the know-it-alls currently. We thank you for your support so much. It means a lot. This is why we do the show. We love talking football. We just, we decided to put the show together. We're interactive. You can hit us up on any social media outlet. Reach out to us anytime at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we're on every type of social media, Instagram as well, too. Appreciate all the support. New things coming this year, a lot of big things happening, and we've grown a lot in the last 3 years, so more is going to be coming, and we appreciate everybody. And thanks a lot, and we will see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the No with Jim and Joe.